members of the ZBA that are attending remotely, are participating remotely. That would be Bob Baker Sr., myself, Rob Rosa, Greg Tanzi, Chuck Hession, Robert Baker Jr., Stephen Galley, and Tim Haynes. Everybody wave. How you doing? What's going on? All right, there's the board members. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I got a motion on Mr. Hession. Mr. Baker Jr., I'll call that the second. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right, Kim, you got that?
Yep, all set.
All right. Here we go. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 15, that a virtual remote continuous public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, April 20th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. on the application submitted by Conrock LLC, care of Walter B. Sullivan and Comerford PC, 80 Washington Street, Building B, Suite 7, Norwell, Mass. 02061, for zoning variances pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, and subsection 415-89.1, also subsection 415-47A, plot and lot size 415-47C, general size exclusive of land subject to Rivers Protection Act 415-48B, boundary line and internal street setback 415-50D, land use density, and 415-52 required open space. The subject premises is located at 365 Concord Street, Rockland, Mass. More specifically on the Rockland Assessors Map 62. Lots 35, 36, 41, 42, 43, 44, and 46, and is located in the R1 residential district. The owners of the property are Daniel Delpreet and Christine Delpreet, 365 Concord Street, Rockland, Mass., and Delpreet Realty Corp. The proposed project involves the construction of 40 market rate single-family homes that will be the subject of a further application to the Rockland Planning Board for a planned unit development. Interested persons are encouraged to participate remotely as a consequence of the current public health emergency. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's webpage for additional information and details. Okay, what I got is, it was a letter to the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals via email, 365 Concord Street. Dear Rob, regarding the aforementioned application, our client is hereby requesting to withdraw its application for a variance without prejudice. Please confirm our attendance at the hearing on April 20th, 2021 will not be necessary. Should you have any questions or need anything further, please do not hesitate to contact our office. Very truly yours, Kayla A. McLeod. And there you go. So they want out. I'd entertain a motion.
Rob, who's voting?
Oh, reminder of who's voting. Kim just sent it to me. Hold on for a second. 365, myself, Chuck, Tim, Mr. Baker Jr., and Mr. Baker Sr. So of the five, or actually of the four, you guys, I would entertain a motion.
Rob, before we do, did we actually take a roll call vote to start the meeting?
We actually didn't do that. We actually didn't do that. So of the voting members that I just mentioned, I need a roll call. I need a roll call to start the meeting. Mr. Baker Sr.?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Hession?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Here.
Mr. Haynes, I appreciate your input. Thank you, sir. You kept me on my toes.
I watched the video the last month ago, and where you disappeared before the vote. So it was on my mind. And my vote is yes.
I appreciate it. So we've opened the meeting. I'm not rereading the letter. I'm not rereading anything. So I would entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the withdrawal without
prejudice. All right, I got
I'll second that.
And I got a second. So we've got Mr. Baker Sr. as the motion. Mr. Hession is second. Roll call. Mr. Baker
Yes.
Sr. Myself is a yes. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
And Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
All done.
Does everybody understand why they're doing that? They're withdrawing that because they have a planned unit development.
Mhm.
So.
All right, all said and done. They're out of here, which I'm rather thankful on. All right, 7:38. We got till 7:45 to wait for the next hearing.
Can I ask you a question?
Who are we talking to?
It's Dave Cedrone.
Yep,
from
Mr.
WAPD.
Cedrone.
hasn't been following this particular development, why was it postponed? Why did they not want to go forward with it?
As far as I know, that as far as we've been told, they're only petitioning the planning board at this point because they're going through with the PUD and based on the PUD regs, they don't need our approval.
Mr. Cedron, they're participating, they're withdrawing this plan, which required variances in favor of a less dense development that's permissible under a different provision of the zoning bylaw called a planned unit development.
This is not a 40B.
No, it's
Not
not
a
a
40B.
40B, but also when it comes to a PUD, the planning board is the permit granting authority, not the zoning board.
Okay, so what happens next?
You would have to talk to the planning board.
The planning board will schedule a public hearing on their planned unit development and proceed under the specific provisions of the zoning bylaw relating to planned unit developments.
And then that plan of 40 units is off the table completely, right?
That is off the table. It's a significantly reduced number of units.
How many is roughly maybe be going in the future? Any idea?
Mr.
It's in the-
Cedrone, as far as we're concerned at the zoning board, we don't know, and we can't talk about it anymore. I apologize,
No,
sir.
but I think we're just trying to get him some info. It's somewhere in the 20s, Dave.
Yeah, I'm not nothing up my sleeve. Bob knows me. So,
Yeah, no,
all right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
It's going to be a meet. They're going to meet with you again. Is there any
No.
meeting with them?
No, they've completely withdrawn their application.
It looks like Wheeler Copeworth Wait from the ledger just said it's 19 units at the moment.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Wheeler.
Yes, thank you, Wheeler. Appreciate that. All right. 5 minutes. I'm gonna just run to my truck real quick. Give me 2 seconds here.
I guess that means we're waiting for 5 minutes.
That's his little legs will let him scurry back.
He's got one of the best backdrops in the business, though. That's no doubt
Oh,
about
yeah.
that.
Well, I don't know. Tim gave him a run for his money.
I used to put up a good one of Green Harbor in the back, but I can't seem to find it anymore.
Well, I was messing with it after you talked to me last, and I tried putting Fenway Park up, but then I would disappear, but I'd have Fenway.
Yeah. That's funny. One of these days, I'm going to get a picture from the top of Mount Everest and put it on there.
Yeah, I know a guy that's climbing Denali next month.
And I give anybody credit doing that type of stuff.
No, let's put it this way. Yeah. Good. Someone that would tackle Mount Everest, that's a very special kind of sickness.
Yeah. Well, you get like a 1 in 3 chance of not making it. So out alive.
Well, one of the big, I was watching something on YouTube with that. And what shocked me is the amount of litter up there.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, the tanks and the stuff they just leave. You just don't.
Well, a lot of people go up, don't come back down. They leave everything.
Yeah, including themselves.
Yeah.
What a day weather-wise today, huh?
Yeah.
It was like a
Gorgeous.
top 10 day of the year.
I was up at Portsmouth today. Absolutely gorgeous.
Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Yeah. In Kittery.
Yeah, that is amazing. If you go down, they have a public park that's kind of across the way from the Naval Shipyard. And in that park, they have a gigantic municipal pool. And I mean, I don't know how big it is, but it's 2 or 3 times the size of like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. I think it's just a community pool, and it is magnificent. It's down on the river across the street from the Naval Yard. I was up there one time driving around just looking at things, and it blew me away how nice it was out there.
Hey, Rob,
Yes, sir.
did you hear that Jason's leaving Ross?
What?
Yeah,
Why?
Jason Scott. It's going with Greg Morse. He's going to be the survey manager.
The chief of survey over there.
Yeah.
No, I dig it. I dig it. Well, good luck to him. Good
Yeah.
luck. He can only make the company better at this point.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Haynes, got a question for you.
Yep.
You got your second shot, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I missed this last hearing.
I was going to ask you, did you get? I got my second shot yesterday, and ever since 6 o'clock last night, I've been dealing with bouts of nausea. You too?
Not surprising. I had 101 fever, and
Okay.
I just, it was rough.
And the first shot decimated me. From basically 3 until 9. I woke up the next day and everything was fine. Got the shot yesterday, came home, was prepared, sat down, everything was cool. And then all of a sudden, right around 6 o'clock, just random nausea from 6 until midnight, for crying out loud. And then all day today. That's why I apologize. That's why I had to run out. I got like 2 bottles of Pepto in my car. So
I guess I know what my Friday is going to be like then.
What shot did you guys get? Did you get the Moderna?
I got Pfizer.
Me too. I had Pfizer.
Pfizer at the Heinz.
And the only thing I got for my second was I was just beat. I mean, just totally no energy.
Yeah.
The worse it is, the more your body's reacting to it. And it's a good thing.
Okay, well then that makes me feel better.
It's nature's way of culling the weak.
All right, 7:45. Got that. So here we go. Let's see. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws 40A, Section 15, in accordance with Section 17D of C53 of the Acts of 2020 and Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order superseding the hearing to be okay. That a virtual remote continuance public hearing will be held at on Tuesday, April 20th, 2020 at 7:45 p.m. on the application submitted by Leo D. Reardon, Jennifer Sheelan, and or Article 15 Brewing LLC, 53 Franklin Avenue, Rockland, Mass. 02370, to allow the conversion of the warehouse/gymnasium space, formerly Kathy Corrigan's building, into a production brewery with public access tap room for a malt beverage production operation, live music, an outdoor beer garden, patio space in an access controlled area behind the building, and separately owned and permitted food trucks, caterers on site weekly. The applicant, in addition to by right uses and accessory uses, is seeking a special permit as per 415-16.C9 to operate an eating or drinking taproom establishment where alcohol beverages are served for an on-premises consumption. The property is located in the I-2 Industrial Park Zoning District at 406 VFW Drive, Rockland, Massachusetts, and is further identified as Lot 20-001 on the Rockland Assessors Map number 15. The owner of the property is John Tassinari Sr., 406 VFW Drive, LLC, 415 VFW Drive, Rockland, Mass. 02370. The applicant and interested parties are advised to check the town's website and zoning board's webpage for additional information and remote meeting details. There you go. As a reminder,
I've got to leave. I recused myself.
All right. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Guys, I'll see you later.
We'll talk to you later, Chuck. Thank you. 15. So myself, Tim, Mr. Baker Jr., Mr. Galley, and as of the last one, I think I asked Mr. Tansey to step up so we could have a full 5-member board. I had asked Tony on that one. He said it was fine. Mr. Galvin, is that still copacetic?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So in place of Chuck, we've got Mr. Tansey. So there's that. All right. Who's running point on this?
I think the plans came from Darren Grady. I don't know if one of the Gradys are involved. But
I am here.
Hey, Darren, how you doing, sir?
Good, thank you. How you doing?
Not too bad. I want to know who's running point for the applicant at this point.
I would say, I'd suspect it might be Darren.
Okay. All right.
Darren, are you kind of gonna take the board through the plans?
Yes, I can do that.
Is the applicant on as well?
I
Yes,
see
sir.
Mr. Reardon. I do see him.
Okay.
So
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question before we start with the substance of it?
Mr. Baker Jr., yes, please.
Just to clarify, the transmittal letter that I received, or that we all received today, had the date of 4/20, submitting all the new documents to us. Is that the first we've seen this stuff?
There
No,
was
so
there was an original plan. This is the updated plan.
Right, no, I mean, of the things that were requested back on March 16th, is this the first time we're seeing it?
And this is why I'm asking who was running point on this. Because I've
Thank
been
you.
told that the town did receive copies of the plans for this application, but the only plans that anybody seems to know of is for what's going on next door. We never received any plans for this application, and that's why I'm asking who's running point on it.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Would you like me to go through the plan now?
I'd like to know why this is the first time we're seeing this.
That is a good question.
We submitted a set of plans to the board on March 16th at the last hearing, and then we were pushed forward to the April 20th so that the board had a chance to review those plans correctly. So this is that set of plans. There was some discussion that night on the 16th, and then the engineers, I asked them in conjunction with our team here with the Tassonaris to make those slight adjustment changes that the board had asked just quickly, because it wasn't an official hearing as we were moved forward. So the board has had first the original set of.
And then we lost them.
I thought it was just me.
Computer screen appears to froze.
Yeah. So either way, I think we have to just get over the fact that this is the first time that we're seeing these.
I think his point was that substantively, these are the same plans as the 16th, but there have been some minor modifications. I think that's what he was trying to explain to us.
Right. And I agree with that. It just would have been nice to get it a couple days prior, but. It is
Well,
what it is.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Mr. Baker, let's.
It's a technical question.
It's a technical question. What do you got, sir?
On these papers now, it says the brewery and gym, private gym. The original filing was for just the brewery. Is this a new filing, or is this
Just for the brewery.
It's just another town.
just for the brewery?
Just for the brewery, sir.
That's all I,
Okay, Mr. Grady, please continue. I apologize, sir.
Oh, no problem. Would you like me to share my screen, or would you like to put up the plan, or I can describe it in either
If you
case?
can, as it goes on, if you can share your screen, that way you're in control of it.
I think Kim has to authorize screen sharing.
I'm going to try it.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's see. Bear with me one sec. All right. So going through my letter, as far as plan changes, we have added a parking calculation. The parking calculation is shown over here.
Mhm.
Shown as 52 spaces required for the brewery.
Darren, can you just zoom in on those so that we can read them? They're hard to read.
Okay, let me see if I can do that. That's better.
There you go.
Future retail expansion, 19 spaces. And the private club or the batting cages is 15 spaces, 86 spaces totally required. Right now we're showing on our plan 91 spaces. 12 spaces are compact. With that, we have shown 3 handicap spaces. We've added one in the front. These 2 are currently existing. There was a question about water line easements in this right of way. The right of way has been clearly shown, and we've added references for the easement.
Mhm.
There's another easement over here that we've also added that easement and the reference for it as well.
Darren, just a quick question. Who owns the right of way? Who has fee title?
The right of way is owned by the locust parcel.
Okay.
There's a question about the gate that's shown. There's an existing gate here. It will be locked, but the right of way is also not accessible. There's tree growth in behind the gate.
Okay.
You can't clearly drive through there. It would take a little bit of work to make that accessible. There was a question about the wetland line. The wetland line is approximate. It's the TOA slope over there. There is a tree canopy that's shown in and around here, but the TOA slope is very distinct, and I believe it to be accurate. The entrance to the site's been modified. There's an encroachment of pavement that comes through right through here. This hatched area here is a proposed pavement removal area. So the entrance is squeezed down to between this area. On the 3rd page of this set, we've also shown that this still works for fire trucks. I can show you that if you'd like, but everybody's got this plan. A narrative has been provided. This was written by Brian Saluti. We've also provided information with regards to our current work with the water, sewer, and fire departments. As far as Mr. Reardon has been in contact with the water and sewer departments, and I've enclosed the correspondence for that. We've attached the current architectural plans that show the brewery, and we've also attached the electrical plans and what shows the site lighting. Those electrical plans right now show a transformer in there. That recently was determined not to be necessary, and I've taken it off my plans, but it's still on the electric plans. If you have any questions, I think that's there's a dumpster enclosure that's also shown over here.
Okay.
If there's any other questions or if I missed something, please, I'll take any comments now, or if Leo Reardon or any of the Tassenaries would like to speak.
Mr. Rosa, could I just
Mr.
ask a quick question?
Attorney Galvin, please.
Is the seating that's located in the outside areas to the rear included in your parking calculation? I know there was a proposed outdoor area in the back.
Yes, so the outdoor area is included in this parking calculation. I've taken these numbers actually from the architect's narrative. I actually had a few more spaces. That's why we have 91 spaces proposed. But the architect numbers are shown on this plan right now.
Could you walk us through that math on those calculations real fast?
It's actually in the architect's plans. Or the narrative. Hold on one sec. Let's see if I can pull that up.
It just looked to me like there maybe should be more. If you're only going to have 4 employees, that doesn't seem very much for a restaurant.
It's listed as 10 in one spot, and there on those calculations, it says 124 seats, which would be 62 spaces.
That was going to be my question. You stole it from me.
Okay.
So I can speak to the number of employees part. Just understand that a brewery is not a restaurant. We don't offer table service like you would get at a restaurant. So those employees would be based upon the 2 to 3 members that would be behind the bar serving. And understanding that someone's working out back, which is generally either myself or my assistant brewer would be back there, doing production, moving kegs and stuff like that. So it's
So
not
that's
like
where the 4 people come from.
correct.
So you'd have you and the assistant brewer working in the brewery part, then you'd have 1 bartender and 1 server, and that's it?
We don't.
I think he froze again, because I thought you were serving some food.
Food trucks, but our bylaw is number of employees, not number of employees working at any given
To
time,
be able to
I
have
believe.
second bartender that is able to obviously leave the bar and bring that over if necessary.
It just doesn't seem like, I'm not telling you how to run your business or anything, but it just doesn't seem like that's enough help, because if you had a problem there and you only had you 2 in the back and you weren't out front and there was a problem, 1 bartender and 1 server, who cleans the plates, or, it just seems like it's too few. I mean, I used to work at a restaurant, and I'm not telling you that I know better than you how to run a restaurant, but it just seems like with 124 seats, you're going to have thirsty people waiting.
Yeah, I understand that, sir. We base all of our numbers based upon our operation in Weymouth that we ran for 2 years, and we've actually been pretty successful at being able to contend with numbers that are similar to that 100-person number.
Okay.
So we're basing that upon what we've done in the past. But obviously, if we need to expand upon that, there's an abundance of. If you look at the calculations in the narrative, there's actually room for us to have far more employees in that area. We're just based upon what our normal operation would be, which is roughly 4 persons.
Well, the only reason I suggest, I thought the earlier plan showed that maybe you had enough parking spaces for your use, but then we ran into trouble if we were to use the athletic club or the mezzanine area, so.
Mhm.
So
So my
that has 100 patrons and the plan has 124 seats. So that's where I think there's a disconnect too.
So my understanding is that the mezzanine area is a future, it would be permitted under a future application. And that parking, we could reallocate that parking.
What about the difference between 124 and 100 in the terms of the seats?
I don't have an answer for that. I was going with what they had on here as far as the 100 seats.
So we, based upon the calculations that the architect did in figuring out what the allowed use should be for that space with the square footage and parking, he came up with that higher number. We decided to not apply for as many as 124. We felt that it would be best to leave a little bit of wiggle room with the number of parking spaces that were there, so that there was some room should there be any issue with the future use type stuff. So that's why we were only going for that 100 instead of 124.
Could you clarify just not the number of employees that you'll have on a given shift, but the number of employees? Because I believe elsewhere it said there will be 10 employees altogether.
Yeah, that's roughly what we have for staff, because we have, obviously, I'm not going to be there every single day of the week. So I have an assistant brewer, as well as we typically have other people that will come in and do keg washing, moving of supplies and equipment in the back room. So that's just a rotating staff that wouldn't necessarily have to be there at all times. Additionally, also, I'd like to mention that most of our production work, when we're actually brewing beer, is typically done on days when the brewery is not open to the public. We do a lot of it on the days that the tap room itself is not, occupied with patrons that are sitting and having a drink. Although they're able to come in like anywhere else and purchase a canned beer to go, it's not in a similar situation. So typically when we're making beer, we're doing it when the building is, closed to the public in terms of seating.
Right. I just wanted to clarify the discrepancies. So we could move on. We'll have further questions, I'm sure, later.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rubel, are you satisfied with the narrative that you received?
Yeah, the question I had was the sitting area out back. As far as the occupancy load on that sitting area that was gonna be out back, the back patio, I'll call it. Is that a fenced in area?
That's what we had proposed, was to be able to fence that in, just to offer privacy for the neighbors, just because that was a concern that the neighbors had in terms of noise and availability for the neighbors.
Okay, so if that's a fenced in area, then that occupancy load in that area is gonna be added onto the occupancy load of the building, right?
Right now, it's shown, the architects and the engineers, when they laid it out, they showed it as shrubbery. So that was, I guess that's a calculation that I'd have to talk to them about in terms of what the right way to handle it is.
Yeah, and if it's a fenced in area and that occupancy load is gonna be considered, then you need to have an egress out of there.
Yes, sir.
There is an egress shown on the plan between the vegetation. I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen.
Okay, so that's different than what I was under the impression that area was gonna be more so to the right. Over to where the deck was, and there was no deck there before.
So you're talking about this area?
Yeah, even over farther. Yeah, right around where you are now. That's where it was originally gonna be.
No, sir,
Okay.
it's still in the same location that we had on the original plans. That's exactly where we've left it. We didn't move the patio.
I'm going
That's
to concur with that. I know that because they were talking about putting the dumpster like right there, and we said, yeah, that's probably
That's
not.
right, yeah.
Was that at the last hearing?
Yep.
Okay. There's an existing like garage door right here that goes into the area for the batting cages that really wouldn't function for the brewery that way. It's
All right,
just-
well, my only concern was if it was, does that occupancy load get added into the main dwelling? That's all. Because I think the last drawing I seen, it had tables and chairs out there.
I'm looking at the architect's plan, and it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not sure if these are cut up into 8s or 4s, but there's 6 tables that are cut up into 8 slices of pie, we'll say. And I don't know if that's 8. I don't know if each table is supposed to be 8 people or if each table is supposed to be 4 people.
Where is that, Rob? Is that out in the patio area?
That's the patio area architectural plan that was.
Right.
So again, I don't know if that's supposed to be 4 people or 8 people per table.
Right.
I don't think it's 8 people. I don't comfortably think that you could do 8 people per table.
That's my only question.
Again, our plan was to try and just stay under the occupancy limits and do what was reasonable. So we, it's maybe Mr. Grady might be able to speak to what the calculation was that he used based on the architect's plan for it.
I had just gone with the narrative from the architect for parking. I did not do any occupancy calculations.
Yeah, understand that the patio is a seasonal thing, so it's not like it's something that we're considering necessarily what you would call, I don't know, I don't want to say permanent seating, because obviously it's something that we want to continue to use, but it's a seasonal type of situation. So.
Not year round.
Correct. Yeah, in the wintertime, we wouldn't have people outside just for weather reasons.
Yep. And that's probably, and that number of spaces is probably going to be where you use your snow collection. Because that's also not shown on the plans, but so again, I guess it's still coming down to parking calculation. All right, let's go on from that. Let's go on from there at this point. We still know that the parking is kind of up in the air right now. I saw the letter that was put out. You have initiated discussions with all the other departments that we have to talk about. Fire, police, sewer, water. Discussions have been initiated.
Correct.
That's really all that we care about at this point, that everything has been at least initiated.
Yes, sir. I had several meetings with the fire department, and as well as I met with a representative for water and sewer and discussed, their needs and explained, what we were doing in our plan was. So we've definitely had conversations about what needs to happen.
All right, so that's fine. And when you do talk to sewer, you're talking to Dave Taylor to some degree.
Yes, sir.
Did he give you anything about, anything highway department related because you are modifying the entrance? Did he say anything about that?
He didn't. He just really was focusing on what needed to happen in terms of the changes for the water stuff, because I think that was just some of the bigger issues that we were facing.
All right,
He did come out to the site when I talked to him, so that was actually at location here, and he
Okay.
was able to see what was going on. He didn't mention any concerns that he had.
Ed, I would just ask in the conversations, just reach out to him and in his DP, in his highway department role, and just ask him if he has any, any specific requirements for when you do modify the entrance, or when the entrance does get modified. And other than that, I'm going to open it back up to the board. Let me just double check and make sure I know who's voting again. What to do? All right, Mr. Galvin's on his way out. All right, Mr. Tanzi, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any questions for the applicant, sir?
I don't believe I have any questions at at this time. If the fire department is happy with the access and circulation around the building, then I don't really have any concerns. The rest, the utilities and whatnot, that all, yeah, it looks like the apparatus can negotiate in and out of the site well enough. So I don't really have any questions at this point. I mean, when the patrons are having a beer, will there be any like sports TV on or anything like that?
There better be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we typically did. We typically always had. And the last location was a smaller building, so obviously we relied on TVs in that spot. So we're going to do something similar where we're able to project. Typically, whatever game is on is going to be projected on just a larger screen so that people can see it. And then, we would normally have some sort of other just YouTube type video or whatever playing just for entertainment factor for anyone else.
Okay. And the type of beer that you're brewing, I suppose it's a custom brew to, what you, brew. Is there any brand name that you market it?
It's under our own brand. So we, based upon all of our licensing with the state and the federal government, we can only produce our own beer. So it's all Article 15 branded, and we rotate seasonally.
And just to be clear, Mr. Tanzi does not drink. So it's.
I was just curious. I don't hold any prejudice against this petition whatsoever.
All right. Next time I walk over drunk, then don't yell at me. And just to be clear, I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. Mr. Reardon, we do not have any formal go-aheads from any of the departments except a written letter from sewer. The talks have just been opened, and that's where we stand at this point. Is that correct? Okay, that's all I. That's again,
correct, sir.
That's all we read. That's all from my perspective. At this point, that's all we care about, because you're still going to go to planning, and they're going to require all of that in hand to do this. That's why I'm not personally concerned that we have everything in hand at this point. Just that talks have been established. So that's where we stand on that one. Mr. Tanzi, are you all good?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes.
I unmute myself here. I had a couple of questions. So I asked about I asked about the parking math. I had a few questions on the exterior lighting. There's nothing that I could find in the plans with any lights that are attached to the building. And I was just curious if that's the existing condition, or what the intentions are at the doors, at the egress doors. What kind of, and especially in the back, there's a couple loading docks and doors in and out. I'm just curious what the lighting is going to be on the building itself. And then while you're thinking about lighting, it looks like there's a proposed light pole in a couple of situations, and it's denoted AA, but I couldn't find the fixture or any information about it. So you could talk about some of the exterior lighting for us.
So there is actually a lighting plan, I believe, attached in this set as well that can be referenced. But the lighting that we're in terms of the building itself, that's an existing condition. There's not a ton of lighting around that building. And based upon the request that we had in the initial meeting from the neighbors, they heavily requested that we try to limit the amount of additional lighting in the outside as much as possible so as not to disturb them. So currently we have lighting over all of the egress points there. But we
lost you, Mr. Reardon. Am I the only one that lost him?
No, I can't hear a
I
thing.
can't hear him.
Okay.
Can't hear him either.
All right. Mr. Rubel, I'm going to ask you a question real quick.
Go ahead.
Is there anything in the building code that kind of requires specific lighting at specific places when it comes to entrance?
Yeah, you're gonna have them by the exits and the entrance, but normally that would be under site plan review for the planning board.
Okay, so in the end, when it comes to site plan review, you're also going to be looking at this for general site lighting, most specifically around the building at this point, correct?
yes, sir.
Mr. Rubel, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that again, I agree that site lighting around the building is important, but the applicant has stated that he's willing to look at that. Is that correct, Mr. Reardon?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so when it comes to site plan review, that will be reviewed. Mr. Haynes, does that work for you?
Sure, I'll leave that if you want to leave that to the planning board.
Yeah, I would, as long as he's aware that it is going to be looked at and may have to be added. You know, when it comes to compliance, when it comes with building code. If that's the case, then I have no problem with that. If you have no problem with that, we can continue. If you still have a problem, we can definitely continue, and I respect that, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm willing to just let that one lie. It's not on the lighting plans, and
No, I agree.
so neither the face. So I was curious, and it did seem awfully dark in the back,
Mhm.
safety wise. The new dumpster location, is that new, or is there an existing dumpster that you're enclosing back there?
So there is the location of the existing dumpsters in the back of the building right now.
And it's going to be enclosed.
That's correct, sir.
So so one of the discrepancies I was curious about was it's listed as a 30-foot setback for the rear yard. And I believe when you abut a residential zone, the setback is actually 50 feet. And so I'm a little concerned about how close it is, you know, to the backyard line, not only in the setback, but you know, the setback is actually 50 feet back there. There's a lot of, again, Rob, if you think we should leave this to planning board to sort out, my concern is that I wanted to bring it up now because we're looking at two other potential uses in the building. The potential, when we first saw the plan, there was a note on the plan saying site of future potential parking. And there's in fact a lot of the setback is pretty substantial, and it applies to parking. It actually you can't have any parking within 30 feet, and that 30 feet has to be maintained in a natural vegetative buffer. So I was curious, we've got parking like running along that easement on the side, so we can see for sure that it's not 30 feet off the property line existing, but this would not leave a lot of room for any parking growth because there's so much setback already that's not accounted for and it's not correctly noted on the plan.
Darren, are you still operating the plan on screen?
Yes, so.
Can you zoom into where the existing storage building is out in the back? Can you zoom into that? See where it says the word spaces? Add 5 spaces. Yeah, those 2 parking spaces right there. Could that be the dumpster location?
I would be perfectly fine with that, sir.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
You're saying to put the dumpster next to the outdoor patio?
No, definitely not. Darren, can you point to the existing building?
The existing building here.
No, up in the back, the storage building with the deck on it. Yes. All right. See where it says 5 spaces to the right there. Somewhere in there, just before the 140 contour. Somewhere in there. If we put the dumpster in there, it's definitely outside of the 30 or the 50-foot buffer. And because it's already paved in the back, you could make up some of the parking spaces on the other side. Because it's in an existing condition, I think we can get away with that.
Yeah, I think I can do that and keep the same angle of the dumpster so it's accessible for the truck, and they should be able to do that.
I think you guys, I believe there's enough room to make that happen. Again, if this were approved by the board, under one of the conditions would end up being that the dumpster location would have to conform to the current zoning bylaw. Mr. Haynes, does that work for you?
Yeah, again, my bigger concern was the overall building and making sure that everyone was aware. As you know, we're being very conservative about the parking.
Oh yeah.
But there's a future parking potential problem because of the zoning. The other thing I noted, I think we've got a minimum 23 feet behind any parking spaces. I can't believe, Rob, you didn't get out your scale and scale it up, but I noticed it was marked 18 feet along the side. I'm not sure about the other spaces going down there, but I think we have a requirement that there be 23 feet.
You're looking at the 18.7 plus or minus?
Going to, and
where he's going to be removing that parking space.
Okay, so again, this is more of a heads up. Again, if the planning board is going to be dealing with these issues, we may maybe come back to a zoning problem because there actually won't be enough parking, even at the occupancies that we're talking about, even with the discrepancies. So I'm just bringing up the issues because there's a number of problems that just that don't add up. So
no, Mr. Haynes, I agree with you. I hear where you're coming from. Mr. Grady, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you have the capability right now to run a new parking calc?
I can, well, not right here right now, but I can tomorrow.
Okay, because in the end, number one, parking is an issue. Number two, we see that there are some issues, and I don't know where. I know it says remove and relocate. I'm not sure if those relocated spaces have been shown, but something that people have to keep in mind: the planning board can override us when it comes to parking. So we have to look at the bylaw, but planning board can overrule us when it comes to that. So when it comes to the bylaw, I see exactly what people are talking about. A lot of these parking spaces are pre-existing. The 18.7, assuming that parking space does get removed and relocated someplace. Again, I don't have my scale on me, but I'm assuming that it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of the 25.6. Personally, I still don't feel that that's enough. Driving a giant mammoth van, I still don't feel that that's enough. But either way, most of this is pre-existing, so there's not much we can really do about that. But again, planning board can overrule us, so I'm not gonna. We're pointing out the zoning non-conformities at this point. That's all everybody has to look at. Let me see. Mr. Haynes, what else you got?
Well, I think the zoning issue of parking is not I'm not sure that the planning board has jurisdiction over the zoning bylaw.
No, not over the zoning bylaw, but they can overrule us when it comes to number of parking spaces required.
Question. What is the current rule on how many parking spaces are required? Is it 1 per 2 seats or what?
Darren, can you bring up that parking calc?
Yep.
I mean, they put 1 space per 2 seats, but then they had bad math, so I don't know if that was 50.
This is kind of why I wanted it. This is kind of why I wanted to see if Darren could do it real quick, but it's one space per 2 seats. He's saying 150.
Well, that would be 62. If it's 1 space per 2 seats, that's 62. Is that what the rule is? 1 space per 2 seats?
But if the applicant is actually saying he's going to be asking for 100 seats, it's 100, then we can use his 100 seats. We'll call this a typo.
Mm-hmm.
Our number of employees is number of employees in the business. It's not how many people are on a shift. So that number is off.
Yeah.
But I'm raising the concern primarily because we already don't have enough spaces. It's awful, by the time we add a few more in for employees, we're at the max. If the owner of this building is planning on future uses and there's any issues with parking, there is no room for growth here because of the setbacks that are not accounted for in here. And I just wanted to make sure that we brought this up now. So that's my number one concern, but other people on the board might feel differently now.
The 124 seems correct, because if he's talking about when it comes to the number of patrons, if it's 100 people inside, and again, I've got 6 tables outside, 6 times 4, that's 24. So that's 124 seats.
So that's good.
Math is, the math is math. And then 124, again, divided by 2 equals 62 spaces. Mr. Galley, you said that, correct?
Yes, yeah. But that's what the formula is? Is that what we're going by?
Yeah.
You need 1 space per 2 seats?
Correct.
Regardless of how many seats he says? Whether he says 100 or 124?
That's right.
1 space per 2 seats.
It's 1 space per 2 seats,
Okay.
and 1 space for every 2 employees.
Yep. Okay.
Which is actually 5 spaces. If
So
there are going to
total,
be 10 employees.
Total number of employees, not total per shift.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 62 plus 5, that's 67. Then
And
we're
that's
also
15
looking at,
spaces.
and then the 15 spaces, but that's for the next door, isn't it?
No, you just added 15 spaces to this math.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. That's true. So,
106.
but again, I've got 67 there. And then if we're comfortable with the 19 spaces for the future or expansion, and then the 15 spaces for next door, which we technically aren't even supposed to talk about, but 19 plus 67 plus 15 equals 101.
It's 106. So you're right, 101 out of the 91 given. They can reallocate these however they want. They're the only applicant before us.
Right.
But again, there's a future problem brewing here.
No, I hear you.
Bob,
Who's that?
Bob, Quick
Mr.
question.
Baker Senior.
Yes. Can we count the 3 spaces where the food trucks are parking?
No.
So
Those
there's
are
gonna be, there's 3 less on the calculation now.
Let me get back to the,
Got 3 spaces right there, but he wants the food truck parked there. So can you
The,
count those as parking spaces for customers?
how
So
can
there
you,
will only be one food truck on location at a time, and that location in terms of where the parking spots themselves are is part of the discussion with the fire department in terms of they're going to tell us where they want us to put the food truck, and we agree to that completely.
okay. All right. So in the total, in the total spaces on site, the number of total spaces on site, were those 3 spaces for the food trucks taken into consideration? Mr. Grady, coming to you.
yes, the 3 spaces shown here are
Yeah.
taking into account in our calculations.
Okay, we got an issue. Okay, so it still comes down to, can I see that parking table again, Mr. Grady? I apologize.
No problem. I was trying to just show the food truck, but
No,
here
I
we
did.
go.
No, you're guiding us well around the plan, sir. I appreciate that. So again, we're looking at just for this applicant and this applicant alone, we're looking at 19 spaces for the future expansion. We're looking at 62 plus the 5, that's 67 spaces. That's patrons and employees. So right off the bat, 19 plus 67 equals, that's 86 spaces. And then that's employees and patrons. Then you're going to need specific food truck parking. So that's 87, a total of 87. Mr. Haynes, are you following my math? Am I good?
Yep, I'm with you.
So far, the brewery itself needs 87 spaces. Does everybody agree to that? Does everybody agree with the math thus far?
So the food truck would take up 1 space, but what would be the space around it for the customer stand?
That's going to end up being a planning board situation.
Okay.
They're going to have to, and I hate to drop things like that in their lap. We're not here to design things. We
Can
just
the
need.
board just explain to me quickly where the 87 spaces for the brewery comes from? I think I got lost in the translation there, how we need 87 spaces now.
We're looking at, we're taking into consideration the 19 spaces for the future expansion. So you got 19 there.
That's not the brewery though. That's that retail space that the building owners are talking about possibly renting on at some point. That's not for us.
That's not for you.
Those 19 spots have nothing to do with us. That is our future retail space for someone else, not the brewery.
Okay. So do you want to take into consideration your future mezzanine space?
We have a mezzanine, sir. There's no mezzanine space for the brewery.
Okay. All right. This is why and just so we're clear, this is typically why we only deal with one applicant at a time. It's getting very convoluted why there's so many different space calculations. We should only be dealing with yours. This is not your, this is not you. We should only be dealing with one. So the 19's out. So we're back to, again, 62 spaces for patrons. We're looking at 5 spaces for employees, a total of 5 spaces for employees. That's 67. Plus the food truck, that's 68. Of those 68, 3 need to be handicapped.
Mhm.
Am I correct at this point?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as I can see, based on math and based on existing parking, you got enough parking for the brewery. Does
I
everybody
agree.
agree?
Yes.
Okay, let's end that story, please.
Yes.
Mr. Haynes, do you have anything else, sir?
Nope.
Okay, I appreciate that. Who the heck is next here, Tim? Mr. Baker Jr., coming to you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Based on what we've got before us tonight and what I've had the opportunity to review prior to the meeting, I have no questions. I'm sure I'll have some, but I'd feel much more comfortable if we actually had definite, real, confirmed numbers on this plan. You know, be going back and forth between 100 and 124, and the discrepancy in the number of spaces. Yeah, you know, and I'm not imputing bad intent. I just need a little more clarity here.
No, it's absolutely understood. I believe that based on what we've seen so far, yeah, there was a typo, not too big at this point. It happens. I think comfortably the 124, because if we're dealing with 100 people on the inside and 24 people on the outside, that seems to make sense. Mr. Rubel, do you have any argument about that? Do you agree with me that it would be 100 people on the inside? Because actually, that's Baker's requirement at this point. You can't have any more than 100 people on the inside. So
Well, I'm gonna need an occupancy load, come time for the occupancy. When I give them their occupancy permit, I want an occupancy load of the place,
okay,
for open space, sitting, standing, egress. I'm sure that the owner, Mr. Reardon knows about it.
okay,
Occupancy loads and travels and, you know.
Yes, sir.
The occupancy load is going to be greater than the number of seats.
Right.
And I would say that we would condition a special permit with the number of seats that are requested.
Well, I've done the players, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, I did players.
Mhm.
That building can hold over 300. I only gave them a 265 occupancy load because of parking.
Yeah.
So a lot of the occupancy loads can depend on the parking.
At this point, I think based on the numbers that are proposed on the plan, excluding the 124 seats equals 50 spaces. If we conditioned it to, again, what did I come up with? A total of 68 spaces required for the brewery. If we conditioned that to basically the 124 people and the 5 employees and the 1 food truck, would anybody, Mr. Reardon, would you have a problem with that?
No, sir, I have no problem with that.
Okay. Mr. Rubel, does that sound reasonable?
That's okay.
Okay. Mr. Baker Jr., how's that sound?
Actually, just let me ask a question, and
Please.
this may guide my concerns. Is the plan to take a vote on this evening?
I don't know yet. It really depends on after everybody's done, after the general public weighs in, if everybody on the board feels that it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
All set, sir?
Yeah.
All right, then Mr. Baker Jr., Mr. Galley, go for it, sir.
I don't think I have any new questions because you really clarified the spacing. Actually, do one little question because Mr. Rubel was talking about occupancy allowed based on the number of spaces. So if he has enough room to exceed the 68 required spaces, not that this is a factor for me, but does that mean he could potentially have more spaces and then increase his occupancy allowance?
He would have to come back to the board because I think what we're going to do, I think that if it comes to based on the number on the plan,
yeah,
I think that comfortably, I can look at this and say that, okay, 68 spaces that the brewery itself needs to fulfill the 124 seats, the 10 employees? Tim, remind me, how many employees?
10 is on the plan.
Okay, so 10 employees, so that's 5 parking spaces,
Yep.
plus the 1 for the food truck.
Yep.
Of those 68, 3 of them have to be handicapped. We can condition it that, again, occupancy, the approved occupancy or the occupancy based on the special permit can't go over 124 patrons.
Okay.
All right. If the applicant wants to, finds that, okay, he does have enough spaces, things start to relax a little bit more, and the occupancy load of the building can support more people, then he would have to come back to the zoning board, ask for an increase, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Reardon, does that sound cool?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Rubel, does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine. I can see, I don't know, again, you have all those extra spaces.
Right.
that's gonna be a difference between, you know, how many spaces you have and how many people can actually go inside the building.
Right.
What you're gonna set tonight will be an occupancy load in regards to the amount of parking spaces, right?
In regards to the required amount of parking spaces as per what we see on the plan.
Right, exactly. That's okay. All set.
You're good with that?
Yep.
Mr. Galley, are you good? And does that work for you?
Oh, that works for me. I was just wondering about the flexibility. Well, that's
No,
works.
I think this actually gives him a little bit more flexibility because it's what it sounds like is based on the architect's design. It sounds like he feels, the architect feels that the occupancy is higher than the 124. At least that's what I was reading. So he feels that the occupancy is more. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. I don't do that. That's not my job. Mr. Rubel, I think he's going to look at that too. They're going to talk about that, but comfortably, the architect says it's more than 124. The applicant's only requesting 124.
Yeah.
I think we're good. I think at this point, we're erring on the side of caution if we go with that.
Good.
Does that work?
Yep, that includes outside seating.
I believe so, because the 50 spaces times 2 is 100, which he said he wanted to do on 100. And when you look at the architect's plan, there's 6 tables and it's basically cut up into 8 pieces of pie, but the thick line is actually only cutting it up into 4 pieces of pie. So that's 4 times 6, that's 24. So that's where I think the 124 comes from.
Even if it does, I was going to add that those seats, those are just seats. So they could be brought in the, in the winter time, and those seats could be indoors at another time, or outdoors, but it's 124 seats. That's just what we base it on.
Yep, no, I agree with that. But then you got to look at the fact that one of them is a food truck, so that's where the 68 comes into play. But then you got to look at the entertainment. Somebody is going to be driving in there with some guitars and some instrumentation and stuff like that. So they're going to have some places to park too. So in the end, I mean, if we said required at this point a total of 70 spaces, I think that'll cover things a little bit. That just popped into my head. So I'm looking out for my musician friends. So
yeah, I would consider them employees.
So exactly. So technically that would add on, say 1 more parking space, 7, technically. So that would be 69. That's a good number. 70 is an even better number. So either way, we're still working with just the brewery. I still think we're okay. All right. Last but not least, Mr. Baker Sr., what do you got to say, sir?
All set.
I appreciate that. Mr. Grady, got anything to say?
I have nothing to say. That sounds fine.
Okay. Let me see. All right. Any chance I can get you to unshare your screen?
Absolutely.
All right, let me see. Who else is in here? All right, I am going to open this up to the general public at this point. Does anybody in the general public want to speak in favor of the application? And hearing none, does anybody want to speak opposed of the of this application?
I just want to speak, period, because I have a question.
All right, Miss Mary Parsons, can I see your face, please? Where are you? There you are.
Good. The previous business, Kathy Corrigan's, was basically a drop-off pickup business. So parking spaces, she may not have used her full amount of parking spaces, but where you're going to have a patio out back, now you're in people's backyards because there are people that are abutting this. And what is the lighting for people parking? What is the lighting for the patio?
Oh, currently at the
lighting
point
that's going to be in these people's backyards.
Absolutely understood. But currently at this point, they don't have to show us that. They just have to show us that their intention is to provide whatever is required when it comes to the planning board and the building department.
So why are they before you?
Because we have to grant the special permit. We basically have to see that the applicant is is basically willing to do what is required to make this work. And so far, when it comes right down to it, the applicant has done that. You don't have to see the final design.
So in other words, you can give him a permit, period, so that he does what he wants.
No, he has to do it in regards to what the planning board tells him.
So he has to go to the planning board for all this.
Oh, yeah, we don't have to, and potentially to conservation.
Well,
This is
that answers probably that, but you do know that there's a suspension in place. They've suspended water.
But he's a pre-existing connection.
Not exactly.
Well,
He's
again,
not on
ma'am,
the list of what they had.
I hear you, I understand, but based on my information, right now, he's still fulfilling the requirements at this point. He's opened up the communications with all departments. While I would love to see a letter from everybody that says that they're in favor of it. We don't need that, not for this.
I have another question. There was an issue of boundaries. Have those been fixed?
The boundaries were never at issue. The location of the easements were the issue. And that's been shown on the plans.
Well, the entrance there was an issue.
Yep, the
And
pavement
the side was an issue.
in the
Parking
beginning,
is.
in the beginning, because of the architect's plans, the architects had a bad, basically had a bad drawing. The front is indeed over the property line, and the applicant has, through Grady Consulting, is showing that that's going to be taken care of. So it's only going to be on the 406 VFW Drive property. The back parking is all on the applicant's property, based on the drawings that we were provided by a registered land surveyor and civil engineering office.
Okay. So this, I don't understand. I just don't understand what he's at you for if he's going to conservation and planning.
Well, I don't know if he's going to conservation or not. I know he has to go to planning. Basically,
Probably go to conservation because it's on the side there.
it's possible. I don't know. That I don't know. But in the grand scheme of things, it comes down to, we're trying to decide if A, the applicant is a good guy. That's number one. Number two, if this actually fits the area itself. And if the applicant is willing to make sure that it fits the area. In the end, he's going to have to not deal with, that's the wrong words, but in the end, he is going to have to address any and all complaints and concerns that come up from general abutters. He's got to be a good neighbor. That's really what it comes down to. And based on Mr. Reardon's reputation, based on the fact that he has, through Grady Consulting and Mr. Tassinari, has shown us at this point that he's willing to make this work. That's where the special permit comes in.
And you're the one giving the special permit?
Not me, the board is.
Oh, planning board.
No, planning board deals with the site design. We deal with the permit to be able to do it.
Okay, but you don't give them any specific issues to deal with.
In the end, we're telling them that parking has the potential to be an issue, most specifically when it comes to the other things that are going to go on when it comes to the property. That's number one. Number two, we are giving him a little bit of insight as to abutters, and the abutters are going to be watching him like a hawk. That's number two. Number three, he is going to have to make sure that he complies with everything that the water, sewer, police, and fire department have to say. So in the end, what we're seeing on the plan may end up being redesigned. Unfortunately, it may come down to that, because we're not here to do his site design. We're not here to approve the site design. That's planning board. We're only here to determine if a special permit is applicable to this site. That's it.
Okay, because an abutter asked me to watch this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're at another meeting.
No, I understand, but we can't, we're not dealing with the site per se. We're making sure that it can work. And at this point, based on the zoning bylaw, it seems like it can. But I don't know that. That's not my decision. That's not my determination. That has nothing to do with it. It has the only people that can make this, that can make this determination are the 5 members on the board, or the 5 voting members on the board.
Okay. So I have to assume that you're giving a general permit
I don't
to
know.
go before the planning board.
I don't know. We haven't voted that yet.
Well, the 5 members will give a general permit to go before the planning board.
I don't know. We haven't voted yet.
I would assume that that's gonna be a yes.
You can assume everything you want. I can't say whether it is or not. I can speak my mind, and I can say that the applicant seems to be working with us.
That's my intention. I mean, I can try to create some of it for you, ma'am. I did this in Weymouth, and we worked very closely with the neighbors that were very close to us, and we had concerns initially when we first moved in there, and we've worked very hard to be good neighbors. That's part of what a brewery is about, is the family atmosphere. I don't want to cause problems for our neighbors, because then it causes problems for us. I am a resident here in Rockland. I live very close by. So
but you
all
don't
the
live in
concerns you
back
brought
of
up are
this
concerns that,
project.
as a resident, I live several blocks away, ma'am, but I'm close. And
I know.
I am aware of what the residents are concerned with.
And I'm well aware of Weymouth, but the issue is you're not the one that's living in back that has to live with it. So that would be their concern.
And we work very hard trying to address any of the current concerns that they've brought to us in terms of making sure our lighting is correct, and that we've created fencing and try to reduce noise. And the concerns that were brought in the first meeting, they were listed out, and I have every intention of trying to address those properly so that the residents are happy. We don't want to create problems in town.
And again, in the end, this is why we're having this meeting, to make sure that he knows that there are concerns. He says he's willing to address them, but we can't address the specifics. We can't address the specifics. Only the planning board can address absolute specifics when it comes to site design. We don't deal with site design. If it was a 40B, different completely. But this is not something that we can deal with when it comes to site design.
Who deals with the entertainment?
Again, that's planning board.
Okay.
We can look at it, and I can ask this question, Mr. Reardon. What time do you think you're going to start like outdoor music? Were you still thinking about that, outdoor music?
We're not doing outdoor music, sir.
Perfect.
We have no intention.
All right, so that's number 1. Number 2, the indoor music. What are you proposing? Are we doing a 4-piece rock band in there? AC/DC?
No,
No,
sir.
nothing like that.
No, sir.
Okay, so I'm talking a couple acoustic guitars at most.
Yes, sir. That's what we
Okay.
typically all do.
Nice, simple, easy. And then in the end, talk to me about hours of operation, sir.
So our hours of operation are designed to be so that we're closing at a reasonable hour. The latest that we're open is our Saturday nights and our Friday nights. We close at 11 p.m. The other nights we close earlier. So Sundays we close at 6 p.m. Obviously, being a Sunday, nice early day. And then our Thursdays we propose that we close at 10 p.m. And that's the same hours that we ran in Weymouth.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. During the good season, let's say May to October, you'd have the beer garden out and back open, roughly, something like that?
That's correct, sir.
What if we started getting noise complaints?
We'd be happy to address those immediately. That's something that we're concerned about as well. We want to make sure that so let me also speak to the fact that the beer garden is designed to be closed earlier. It doesn't stay open as late as the rest of the brewery does. We close at typically the space that we were allowed to have in Weymouth due to COVID. We limited that so that it was closed by 8 p.m. So that way it wasn't.
Okay, just so you're aware, when if it comes down to it, if the board does agree to grant the special permit, those hours are all going to be put in they're going to be put in the permit, and it's going to be a part of the conditions, saying we're going to have to, if that's the case, then we're going to have to live with that. And we'll come back to you on that. You know, if it comes to that, we will come back to that and discuss that with you. So again, Ms. Parsons, I am not trying to shut you down in the least. You know I love you. I'm not trying to shut you down at all.
That's okay. I was asked to watch this meeting.
And you're doing exactly what I need you to do. And that's pay attention. So again, the applicant has kind of addressed has addressed the possible noise complaints, has addressed the times that the beer garden, will be closed most specifically. Do you have anything else, ma'am?
No,
You good?
it'll be planning board.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the end, when it comes to site design, that's really what it's going to be. We govern hours, we govern the hours. But other than that, that's really a planning board issue. So, all right. Do I have anybody else who wants to speak? I guess opposed at this point. Who's raising their hand there? You can't hear you. You gotta unmic or unmute yourself.
Okay.
There we go. Name and address for the record, please.
Peggy Dean, 393 Forest Street. Scott Dean, 393 Forest Street.
All right, talk to me, Miss Dean.
We live directly behind the facility.
Mhm.
We're not 10 feet from this. While I am happy about, a good brewery coming in, that 8 o'clock sounds dynamite, because we're always in our yard 24/7. And there is no privacy between that building and us right now due to fences falling and all that. So I wish you luck, and I really hope that you can divide us so that they don't see us, we don't see you, and it's just privacy.
Can you tell me what kind of, since you live there, can you tell me what kind of fence is back there?
Right now, it's a picket fence, a wooden picket fence, 6 feet.
Like, okay, a 6-foot stockade fence that's probably in poor condition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Grady, can you look at the plan and see where that fence is in relation to the property line?
Yes. Do you want me to share my screen again?
Yeah, if you could. I just want to see basically whose property that fence lands on.
Oh, it's not mine.
Can you see my screen?
Got that. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna zoom up.
All right, looks to be all on the VFW side of the. Okay.
Here I
Mr.
am.
All right. Well, Ms. Dean, which one are you?
I'm right here in the corner. Yep, where he's pointing to.
Right there.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that big patio thing is huge. It's 25 by 40 something.
Well, which one? Their outdoor beer garden? Is that what you're speaking of, ma'am?
Yes. Yep.
Darren, do you know the size on that?
It is on the plan. 25 by 42.
Okay. Yep, 25 by 42. I'm looking at the architectural plan too. Yeah. Yeah, it's of decent size. I agree with you, Ms. Dean. It is of decent size. If you look at the architectural plan, again, it's going to be fenced in, and it looks like the potential design is going to be a series of planted trees that are on the inside. I'm assuming that's going to add to, some sort of privacy. I can't say it's going to deaden the noise, but it seems like it's going to add in some privacy. And based on, hey, Darren, can you go back to the site plan?
Yep.
And based on your proximity, you are,
Yep.
That's 40 feet, that's 40, 80, about 100 and, I'd say 120, 130 feet away from it. So
I
If they're loud, you're gonna hear it.
I beg to differ. I think I'm a lot closer. I feel like I could throw a stone at that.
Nah, assuming that the engineer has everything correct, I don't, I do beg to differ. I'm looking at potentially, what is that? 30,
This is 120 feet.
120. I'm over that. 220 maybe. Darren, does that seem like a rough? I know that's a rough estimate, but what do you think?
It's definitely over 120.
Okay.
I'm thinking it might be like 130, 140 to this closest property line here. If you're looking at that bar scale compared to right here.
And then another 60 feet or so to the house.
Correct.
All right. So that puts you at a decent distance. I'm not arguing with you at any given time, ma'am. I agree with what you're saying. But in the end, you are on the other side of the wetlands too. So
exactly, that's all wetlands back there.
Yep. So in the end, what I can say is, when it comes to that fencing, is there any other abutters to the site, most specifically in and around the right-of-way area, that could basically speak to the condition of the fence that's out there? Hearing none, I'm going to go to Mr. Tassinari. Talk to me about that fence out there. How about what kind of condition is that in?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. How are you tonight?
Not too bad. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm aware there's the fence out there. It's a wooden stockade fence. It is existing. We're aware that it has deteriorated in a few areas, and our full intention is to dress that all up and make it look correct and pretty again. We are aware of the condition, and we are planning on fixing it and making it correct again.
All right. If it came down to conditioning a new fence, if we said put up a 6-foot vinyl fence in place of the existing chain link fencing or the stockade fencing, would you be adverse to that?
Well, I wouldn't be completely adverse to it. I think we're open to that conversation. Once again, we own a lot of buildings in the neighborhood, and we don't have many complaints, if at all any, from anybody around this area. We do what they ask us to do to try to keep good neighbors, as Leo had said too. That's what we aim for, and we're very approachable, and somebody just has to speak with us, and if it's something that's reasonable and doable, there's no reason why we wouldn't want to do it. So. And I believe I've met you also in the backyard and spoken with you too. And I've told you to come to me directly if there's anything that you're concerned about or anything you would like us to do. And I meant it. And that's still an open door policy.
Okay. Ms. Dean, do you have anything else?
No, like I said, it sounds like a great business. I just want to keep some sort of separation because I have kids that are in the yard all the time.
No, I appreciate that.
I had a pool out there. I have a thing they jump on, and we're out there during most nights. So,
okay.
Privacy.
I'm gonna look at this and say, is there anybody else that wants to, anybody else in the general public that wants to speak up, whether opposed or in favor, either way? And hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
All right. Before I hear a second, I'm going to add, I forgot, I want to ask the board any other questions that may have come up. No, hearing none. I would entertain a second for the motion.
Second.
Okay, I got a second. I need a roll call vote to close the public portion of the meeting, and I'm going to go to Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Mr. Haynes.
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
And Mr. Galley. Mr. Galley. Oh, there you are. Wave your hand if you say yes. Okay, he's a yes, and I'm also a yes. All right. All right, so the public portion of the meeting is closed. Actually, we haven't done this in so long. I didn't even go to my cheat sheet here. Any hearing none to do, board will deliver. Okay. The board will deliberate tonight, and you are welcome. And this is to you, Mr. Reardon. The board will deliberate tonight, and you're welcome to stay. You will receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp. 21 days from the date stamp on the decision, go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal. And if no one is appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. Take those to the registry of deeds and have them recorded. One of the conditions is always to show the building department proof of recording. Okay. Can I suggest a quick 5-minute? I'd like to go to my car real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, it works. Yep.
All right.
It does.
Use the bathroom if you need it. I'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, I'm back. All right, thank you all for appeasing me. I appreciate that.
Hang in there.
I'm trying. I didn't feel it appropriate to start swinging Pepto and Belch and all this stuff in front of everybody. So, all right, Mr. Galvin is back. Let's see, Mr. Tansey, Mr. Rubel's here, Mr. Reardon, everybody's here. Everybody's good. All All right, members, talk to me. Who wants to open up discussion here? Don't everybody all speak at once.
I'll say something if you don't mind.
Please do, please do.
So on the issue of this site plan and the lighting and the parking and all that stuff, I wanted to say that, I mean, I think what we're really, like the first thing we're really looking at is this use permissible by special permit in harmony with the neighborhood? And so from my perspective of the change that's happening is going to be later nights than it's been. And since it abuts a residential neighborhood, a use that is by itself busier, later is, while I think it is in harmony, I think having a restaurant type of use and alcohol in I think all that is fine. But I think things like lighting and headlights and noise and traffic are the thing that the zoning board really should be thinking about in terms of, is it in harmony with the neighborhood, especially because it abuts a residential neighborhood. And the existing conditions at the site have been okay because it was kind of a daytime drop off kind of use. And the use that's being suggested has a lot of problems. And you don't want a dark back parking lot. You can't have dark doors for egress. So there's going to be some conflict here. And I do think it's an appropriate place for, at least as far as giving a special permit, that we at least talk about whether there are conditions we want to see in terms of the site and the way that it's used. So from my mind, it's an appropriate conversation, and I'm more than happy to let zoning board deal, or let the planning board deal with some of the more technical lighting issues. And I think our usual condition is that we get to see it, that it comes back to us. And I'm comfortable with that. I think the planning board is sensitive to the neighborhood, the neighbors and their needs. I think we should just, I think we can focus on no music outside, close the patio an hour or two before closing time and deal with the hours. I think no amped music entertainment makes sense, as long as the applicant is okay with that. It's what we've heard. I am very concerned that we're backing this property into a corner for future use with the number of parking spaces. And I would love to get everybody's opinion on that. It's going to be tight, and the idea that the 11,000 square foot space only needs 10 spaces because it's a private club has me a little concerned. Yeah, that and the fence repair, those are my only concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes. Who's next?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think Tim had some very good comments. What I would suggest is as far as lighting is concerned, make it dark sky compliant. All lighting could be hooded so that it cascades down. No light trespass off the property lines. The patio seating, that can, you can have lights that are maybe at the perimeter of the patio that are 2 feet off the ground so that people can see where they're stepping. Maybe a little table light where all that light cascades down. It looks like the patio, if I read the plan correctly, it looks like they're proposing some type of a live screen, vegetative screen around the perimeter. And that would go a long way to keeping all the light, trespass on the property. The big concern would be the parking area out back. A lot of that, lighting can be, if it's up towards the building, any patron, parking down in that area, as they walk to the building, they're going to be walking towards a lighted area. I mean, these are just some suggestions that would make the facility safe, accommodating, and accommodating for the abutters, and to preserve their their privacy. I mean, I'm sensitive to their needs and their concerns. Everybody likes privacy, and I'm certainly no different. Definitely repairing the fence, like what was discussed. We can even have some live plantings or fence screenings implemented as necessary. Just some suggestions for conditions. As far as parking is concerned, there's plenty of parking for the brewery. Anything that gets permitted after that is going to take a back seat. I mean, if they want, if the athletic club needs additional parking spaces that aren't available, if they've been consumed by the brewery, then the club is going to have to be scaled back to, appropriately to accommodate the parking. Maybe another condition that, all parking circulation will be, in compliance or with the fire department, just to cover ourselves. And then the rest falls on, the water and the sewer. That's kind of out of our control. I mean, those permits are going to be granted by either the water department and the sewer department. It's an existing building, so I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue there, although there could be. But again, that's out of our hands. But that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Who's next? Mr. Baker Jr.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, my concerns and the conditions I'd recommend are pretty consistent with what both Mr. Haynes and Mr. Kenzie have mentioned, and I think Mr. Galley in his earlier comments. Certainly I think we need to address parking. We need to at least clarify what the occupancy is, but more, or as particular, as importantly, hours of operation, hours of entertainment, prohibition on exterior entertainment. Again, repairs or replacement of the fence. And again, I have no concern about Mr. Reardon's desire to be a good neighbor or his willingness to be one. I'm sure that's what he wants, because that reflects on his business and in him as well. So, but I think the more of these things we get in writing as conditions for the issuance of the permit, the more comfortable I'd be. And I kind of get the sense that the more comfortable the neighbors would be as well.
No, much agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker Jr. Where else? Mr. Galley, talk to me, sir.
I don't really have any concerns more than what the abutters had mentioned in their letter. I mean, and it's already been said, about doing something about, like I said, maybe something to do with fixing the fencing in the back. It's already been stated. And they're concerned about noise. I don't know what the noise, I don't know what the rules are about how loud they can be. I mean, if there'll be people out in the back, the voices will carry even if there's no music. But I don't know if they wanted like an 8-foot high fence or something. I don't know. I think it would be nice if they did something like that, but I don't know if it's going to stop noise. And if the lights aren't shining onto other people's properties, I imagine the lighting plan should do the job of disturbing the residential neighbors. But I don't have anything more than what they've already expressed.
Sounds good to me, sir. Mr. Baker Senior, talk to me.
The only thing that I would make a recommendation for a condition is that they post VFW Drive, no parking anytime.
Okay.
So that if there's overflow from any one of the two proposed businesses,
Mhm.
they couldn't park out there. We did it with Players.
Okay.
Players is there's no parking up on that end of VFW Drive. And the signs would have to meet the Mass Highway signage dimensions.
I like that. Mr. Galvin, welcome back.
Hi, how are you?
What, you got any additions to some of these conditions?
No, I think the board is kind of hitting on the same points that I would hit on. The only thing I've seen done elsewhere is that you could put a limitation on the use of the outdoor area in terms of a time frame at night.
Oh, you weren't here for that. Mr. Reardon did go over times. They were going to close that at, I think he said 8 o'clock. Earlier than the rest of the facility.
Where I was thinking from was in Marshfield, there's a restaurant called the Fairview, and it's in a residential neighborhood, and they basically can't have any amplified sound after 9, and basically close their outdoor deck in the neighborhood at 9.
Okay. So that pretty much confirms what Mr. Reardon was kind of going for. So this is the first one of these that we've had in town, correct? I don't know of another tap room.
This is a growing thing. I mean, Marshfield amended zoning bylaws a year ago to allow brew pubs, and we've already got one open, Stellwagen Brewery. And candidly, it's in an industrial area. It hasn't been a problem, to be honest with you.
So when it comes to, if it does come to conditions,
By the way, you know what? I did have a question. If food trucks are going to come to the property, how many parking spaces will you lose? And is that area designated on the plan?
It is designated on the plan. Mr. Reardon said that only one food truck will be on site at one specific time. The first meeting that we had, maybe it was the second meeting that we had, Mr. Baker Senior raised a concern about the food truck being parked in front of the building and having there was like propane gas or something like that being that close to the building. I think the fire department should look at that. Mr. Baker Senior, do you agree with me?
Yes, that's what we asked.
All right. I think the fire department should look at that and should technically determine where they think the food truck should be.
Well, I would just tell you to say not more than one food truck on premises at the time and parked in a designated space.
Okay.
Approved by the building commissioner, Mr. Rubel.
Okay.
I have no other questions.
All right. Well, at this point, we have to determine if it meets the criteria. I would entertain a motion, whether favorable or not.
I make a motion to approve the special permit
With conditions.
with conditions.
Okay, I have a motion. I would need a second.
Mr. Chairman, is it too late for public input?
Yes, it is, sir.
I'll second it.
And I've got a second. Is there any more discussion? And do we want to entertain, even though we've closed the public portion of the meeting, do we want to entertain, what is your name, sir?
Mike Bromberg and Director Butter. Unfortunately, it was another town meeting, so I just hooked in here now, so.
Okay.
I make a motion to allow the gentleman's comments.
Attorney Galvin, can I do that? Or
You
can
have
we
to
do
reopen the public portion of the hearing in order to accept his comments. But I
So moved.
can vouch for him because he was in the meeting with me.
Okay. All right. So I know, again, we know he was in there. We know he was in the other meeting. So I guess I would entertain a motion to reopen the public hearing so we can address, what was your name again, sir?
Mike Bromberg.
Mr. Bromberg's concerns. I would entertain that motion.
So moved.
I got a motion. I would entertain the second.
I'll second.
I've got a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
myself is a yes. Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me, sir.
Thank you all very much for opening the meeting again for me. I didn't realize that you guys would be having a meeting because I checked in the town clerk every day for the new updated plans. My understanding was they didn't come in until 3 o'clock this afternoon or 4
That is
o'clock this afternoon. So obviously there's no time for us to look at them at all to see what the changes were from the March 16th.
Honestly, sir, the changes were minimal. When it comes to design, the changes were minimal. We asked them to show a couple of easements. We talked about the park. We talked about the location of the dumpster. We talked about we made sure to clarify that the entrance was going to be moved onto the property. It was actually minor. It was a lot of minor changes that really didn't affect what was going on.
Would there be any use of the easement at all from Forest Street?
No, sir. Other than what's already there, which is just utilities.
Right, no public use to get
No.
into the property.
Nope.
I heard some mention about fixing the fence. So I see the zoning bylaws, allow parking in this area, under special permit or regular permit. Probably written a long time ago. Today, if you're in any bar, supermarket, wherever, if you're in the parking lot, there's a lot of horns going off day and night. Everybody's looking for their car, everybody's locking their cars, this and that, starting their cars that, warm them up or whatever, put the air conditioners on. So there is going to be some noise. The fence that we have there now, it's halfway seen its days or more. And I know headlights will shine right through them because they shine right through them now because it's
Mike, I'm going to tell you that we've already addressed that. They're going to replace it.
Will they replace it with a vinyl fence so that no headlights will go through it?
If we condition it as such, it'll have to be.
That would be excellent if you could do that.
Okay,
That
next.
would stop some of the noise and the light. And 8 foot high would be, preferable. I know my neighbor next door, he sees it all. I mean, he's exposed to the whole back of the property, and he probably needs a 10 foot high in his section, but
Well, that's a special concern. We'll have to do it. We'll have to talk about that, but that's a rather special concern. Typically 6 foot high, you don't need a permit first and foremost, nor do you need any kind of special permit for a 6 foot high fence. For an 8 foot, you need a variance, I think.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Rubel.
Yeah, as the fence viewer, the 780 CMR, which is the state building code, the 6 foot fence is now changed to 7 foot.
Really?
You can go up to 7 foot without a building permit.
Okay, that
An
works
8
for
foot
me.
fence is called a spike fence.
Mhm.
And usually when you see them in this situation where you have a commercial button residential, there's no problem with it. But if it was a residential button residential, it'd be a different story.
So in a commercial situation like this, we could
Yes,
condition an 8 foot high fence.
yeah. 7 foot now, you don't need a permit.
Okay.
It used to be 6, but they changed it to 7.
All right. Something to think about. Mike, what else you got?
so our neighbors discussed, as much as is minor detail, is not to have a white fence so that it sticks out. If it can be brown or green or something like that, that would be excellent. So it blends in with the back of our yard and stuff, you know what I mean? White's gonna stick out, big time in the backyard, you know what I mean? So if it's possible, I know it's just a long shot, but the other issue we have is Kathy Corrigan's she does still probably have a gate over there. I haven't looked out back in a long time, but she had a gate over there because of trespassers at night, using the dumpsters, using her dumpster, actually partying out back and doing unmentionables out back, whatever took place out back. So she had to put a gate on there. So my concern is who's watching the parking lot during the operation of hours and after the operation of hours, because there's no access to the bar, to the tap room, except for the front of the building. So the rear of the building, if people can get food at the food truck and come back there and sit and buy a 6-pack or 2 of beer, you know, from the tap room and sit out back, you know, instead of paying full price for beers inside, I can see that happening quite a bit. I'd like to know, you know, what is the plan for that?
I can assume that we're going to condition it that no alcohol consumption outside of the building is going to be allowed. Or no, yeah, alcohol consumption outside of the building will not be allowed. That's
So
number
who-
one.
Except on the
Who would
patio.
monitor with
Except,
that?
yeah, exactly, except on the beer garden.
So who would monitor that situation if there's only a bartender or 2 inside the building?
I would assume, now again, we didn't talk about this, but I would assume that there would be some sort of camera system that seems to be stereotypical nowadays on commercial type buildings like this, especially seeing as though there's a potential for that. And to be quite honest, that storage building that's out in the back, you could easily put a camera system. You could easily put a camera on that to monitor the back.
I think they plan to take that down.
That wasn't told. We weren't told about it.
Uh,
Mr. Tassinari, do you guys don't have cameras out there, do you? I can't. You got to. There you go.
Hi, Mr. Chairman.
Do you guys have cameras out there?
It's been our plan to install new security cameras so we can monitor them remotely and on site. So
There you go.
there'll be a full. And furthermore, if he sees something he doesn't like, I want him to call the police.
There you go.
I mean, we're not afraid of that. If something's illegal or not right, even including now, if the brewery doesn't go in, call the police now. He's doing me a favor.
There you go.
Industrial 1 use. I mean, to be honest with you, this is a very low use for what it could be. I'm not, like I said before, I'm moving my construction company over there and breaking rock at 7 a.m. This is a great use. He's closed 3 days or 4 days during the week, and he's only open, you know, for certain times. It fits perfectly in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
I appreciate that, Mr. Tassinari. Mike, what else you got?
Well, I mean, I'm not warm and fuzzy with that, you know, call the police every night, you know, if there's people out back partying.
Yeah, but Mike, if you're going to have to call the police every night, then we got a real problem, and they're going to have to come back. They're going to have to come back to us.
Okay. So the other thing is just with the parking lot again, if you have a food trucks, I've gone to a lot of food truck rodeos. There's a lot of food all over the street, all over the parking lot, hot dogs thrown on the corners, you know what I mean? French fries dropped. Health issues, rats and stuff like that. Is there a maintenance plan for that at all?
Again, as a part of the conditions, we should be able to add that in there. But on the flip side, Mr. Reardon, do you hear what he's talking about? Site cleanliness. Who's going to be taking care of the site?
The site is going to be taken care of by ourselves as well as the Tassinari's maintaining their site. We have no intention of leaving garbage around because that also speaks to our business and
exactly
the kind of business that we can, you know, be conduct there.
It's the food that's left there at night. So if you plan on cleaning it out after the food trucks leave, going out in the parking lot, make sure it's okay. If you wait until the next morning, then we're going to have some rodent problems around here. I know that for a fact. That's why you see that.
Cleans up at the end of the night, and we only allow our patrons to eat in our allowed area. So that will be the patio area as well as the inside the building. And our staff does the full cleaning at night because we have to make sure that obviously our production facility isn't affected by any type of pests of any type, that we have a constant pest control company on site that monitors for stuff like that for us. It's part of what we do. We have to maintain cleanliness as a food production type facility. It's you know, beer is not food, but still we're producing a consumable. So we have to be aware of pests and stuff like that at all times.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rubel, can I ask you a question to that?
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Is that more of a Board of Health concern, or is that a building department concern?
No, that'd be Board of Health.
Okay, so basically, if you see something like that, call the Board of Health. And I don't think it's ever going to, I can't say that it's going to get like that. But on the flip side, I see the same situation at McDonald's.
I do. Yeah, you're right.
All right. It is a concern. It is a general concern, but as a new business coming into the town, I think the applicant, personal gut feeling is that the applicant is putting his best foot forward at this point. And he's got a very good reputation where he comes from. To think that he would set up shop in a brand new town and go downhill, I don't think any business owner would do
No,
that.
I agree. And he seems like a straight out guy. I'm just concerned, some, bringing up some concerns. So if the lighting's all set, and did you say there was going to be a buffer from the fence, a vegetative buffer at all?
Based on what we're talking about right now, it's not shown on the plan, but we could condition it as such if the board felt that it was necessary.
I think it would help with noise. And if they stay with a stockade fence, it would help with the headlights as well, so, do they have to be a certain amount away from residential land anyways?
When it comes to, technically, if this was a new site, yes, this is a pre-existing site. Everything's existing. All the parking areas, the paved areas are existing.
So they can park anywhere.
Well, they can park on the property.
Where the existing asphalt is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna be parking. Will the fence, can I ask you just one more? I appreciate you guys staying up at this late hour. The fence was the final plan that it's gonna go all the way across to George Anderson's property on the north side of
George Anderson?
Yeah, so it's gonna go across the whole north side of the site, correct?
I don't think we can really do that because you're going to be cutting through the wetlands. I'm not going to make an applicant put.
No. Like from the north side of the site, the northeast side, it was going to go I think we asked in the letter that the fence would continue all the way. There's a gate right now at the easement. If the fence would cross over that easement, because we're going to get headlights right through there. And then George Anderson asked if he could go down about 40 feet along his property.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak for a moment, please?
Mr. Tassinari, please do, sir.
There's an existing fence that is there, and it is a 6-foot fence. And, I feel that the way it is and the way it's set up, it is suitable. I mean, is the neighbor now seeing any headlights? I mean, the backyard is only overflow parking. The majority of anything that takes place at this is mostly through the front door. I mean, to put up a fence through the woods and through the trees and start clearing trees to put a fence in, it defeats the purpose. I mean, if he wants me to tear down that bathhouse, that storage house in the back so I can rearrange it for more parking, I can do that. I mean, there's options there for that. I wasn't going to, but
have to.
Situation work for him. It acts as a natural shelter to the backyard. In reason to make everybody happy there.
So the building doesn't matter to me, John, at all. You can leave that there. That's fine. As far as the fencing goes, there's no stockade fence at the easement from Forest Street coming in. Just a one pole gate going across.
Headlights don't even shine that way. It's in the far left-hand corner.
When you're coming up from the side of the building, heading towards me and George's property, the headlights are shining right through the easement into a property area. So
we could always put a 90-degree on it too, so it kind of hooked in, so you wouldn't see anything at all. Then we wouldn't have to go all the way and go up into the woods by the neighbor's yard. We'll just give you a 90.
And I believe that's what he said. A couple of sections of fence coming down that lane. I'm looking at Google Earth. Granted, it's not the best, but and it is heavily treed. It looks like deciduous trees, so it looks like they lose their leaves during the winter. What is it, 8-foot fence? Was that 32 feet? Does that sound right? 4 sections, 4 times 8 is 32. So maybe 4 sections of fence coming down that one side, and then a gate at the easement because you need the gate just in case they have to deal with water or sewer that's going through there. And then basically staying on your property all the way down and mimicking where the existing fence is currently.
Right, so where the gate is now at the easement, John, could you put stockade right across there with a gate? So you can open it, you know,
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. What else you got?
that's it.
All right. I would entertain a motion to
Mr. Chairman, can I
reclose
just-
the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, by the way, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. It's all good. I know that this is a difficult situation. I understand as an abutter, you have concerns and
No, I think I'll have good neighbors, but we're just concerned about our privacy and stuff, that's all.
no, I understand. I've got a motion to reclose the public hearing. I need a second.
Second,
I got a second, Mr. Galley. I need a roll call. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. All right. Hearing's closed again. All right. So as it stood, I think I had a motion to approve with conditions. Is that still the case, Mr. Haynes?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yes.
All right. All right. I've got a motion. I got a motion to approve with conditions. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
I've got a second. I need a roll call on this. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
myself is a yes. Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Reardon, you're raising your hand. Why are you raising your hand?
I just had members in the room here talking. I just was trying to hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, we're about to approve your project, so let me get back to this. All right. So I got five yeses. Ready to deal with conditions, everybody?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Galvin, and Kim, I still got you here too. Condition number 1, hours of operation. Does that sound like a good first condition?
It
Yes.
does.
Okay, well, Mr. Reardon, give me your hours of operation one more time.
So we open Thursday nights, we're open from 4 to 10 p.m.
Okay,
Saturdays, we work from 4 to 11. Excuse me,
Saturdays,
Fridays,
4 to 11. Fridays, 4 to 11.
Saturdays are 12 to 11,
12 to 11.
and Sundays are 12 to 6 p.m.
12 to 6. Thursdays, 4 to 10. Fridays, 4 to 11. Saturdays, 12 to 11. Sundays, 12 to 6.
So.
That's correct.
Mr. Rosa, what I would recommend that you do is adopt those hours as the approved hours. And any modification of those hours require written approval of the Board of Appeals.
Okay. Mr. Galvin, are you typing this up or is Kim typing this
I'm
up?
writing it down, but I'm sure Kim is
Okay.
taking notes.
Okay.
I'm typing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
those are the hours that are open to the public, but I believe the brewery will have to have employees working on other
The other
days
3
of the week
days.
brewing the, so I guess, what are the
Mr.
hours?
Reardon, can you talk to that?
Yes, sir. So the brewing schedule is based on a 7-day of a week rotation. So there's 2 shifts of brewing. There's a morning brewing shift and an evening brewing shift to keep up with production. But that would be, a 2 to 3 employees on site schedule. It's not a massive operation with multiple persons involved.
Is that gonna be on the Thursday through Sunday schedule, or what about Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday?
7 days a week, I think.
That's 7 days a week, sir.
Okay, and when are they gonna be there?
It's really based upon demand and need, sir. So it would be, typically we would start our brew day around 8 a.m. And then we finish up a brew day, no later than 9 p.m.
Mr. Rosa, I wouldn't recommend putting a restriction on the hours because it's possible, like, they may need to come in and work on something at an off
I agree.
hour.
That's
And it's all interior items where there's not going to be like a noisy use there. So allow them to be open for brewery related operations 7 days a week, at all reasonable times. And then with respect to the restaurant brew pub operations, limited to those hours.
okay. So brewery. So again, the brewery related operations 7 days a week, 8 to 9. But but the patrons will only be the Thursday through Sunday schedule.
That's correct.
Okay.
I got a question.
Who was that?
Question.
Mr. Galley, talk to me.
I don't know if this is relevant. I remembered you were talking about how part of this application is documented between multiple businesses. So the site plan that we got date stamped for the town clerk for March 16th, the big one, has a thing about batting cages, and the one that we got today has batting cages hours. Is that relevant? Is that involved?
No, it's not relevant.
I think what you need to do is a part of your condition says, regardless of what's on the site plan, what is being approved is only the operation of the Article 15 brew pub. And anything relating to the other use of the building is must be the subject of an independent approval.
Make that condition number 1.
So just for clarification, is that part of this business or the other part of the building that another business would be doing?
There's a
It's a potential future.
Oh, okay, potential future for the Article 15 brewing.
No, it has nothing to do with them.
Okay, so it's just, okay, good. So it has nothing to do with them. It's just on the site plan.
Yeah, but again, this is why
Yeah.
this should have been 2 different applications.
Yeah, right.
That's part of the confusion.
Yeah, I just want to make sure because it was hours and we're talking about hours. So I'm done. Thank you. Sorry.
No, I dig it. The other thing was the beer garden hours. What are the beer garden hours, Mr. Rubin?
So we typically would open those at the same normal opening time, so the same start time of the day, and then we close those by 8 p.m.
All right, so Thursday through Sunday, 4, 12 to 8.
I can't hear. Can you doors up?
Does that work?
Could you say that again, sir? I couldn't hear you. My audio broke up.
Basically, Thursday through Sunday, 4, 12, all to 8 o'clock.
That would be fine, sir.
Okay. All right. What is that reverb? I hear
Sunday through 6.
6 o'clock.
Okay, so Sunday would have to be 6 o'clock. Got it. Kim, did you get that?
Yep.
All right, so 12 to 6. All right. So again, that's going to be condition number 2. Condition number 1 is, Mr. Galvin, can you repeat that? What you said for condition number 1?
Sure. The special permit is granted for the Article 15 brewery and brew pub only.
Okay.
All other uses of the buildings on the site and property shall be the subject of a further approval by the board.
Mm-hmm. All right. Kim, that's condition number 1.
Gotcha.
Condition. Thank you. Condition number 2 is the hours. Condition number 3, subject to approval by fire, police, sewer, and water.
Why don't you say must receive all other local permits and approvals required?
This is why we have you. Kim, you got that?
Yep.
Okay, so there's number 3. I'm leaving the fence and the screening and all that stuff till the end.
Mr. Chairman, can we deal with the entertainment hours too, please?
Yes. Make that condition number 4 is the entertainment hours. Mr. Reardon, can you speak to that?
So we typically had our entertainment running in our normal hours. We didn't have any outside entertainment, so it was all contained internally. So our entertainment matched our normal operating hours.
Okay, so entertainment hours. Kim, you can just copy and paste.
Just
Well,
same
should have-
same as operation hours, except for outdoor areas, which will be done by whatever time you say.
No, we don't want it. No, we're not doing anything outside.
There's
No
no
music.
Okay.
no
No
music
outside.
outside. I think we
We're
should have
all
a
on, we're all on
condition.
that same thing. I think we all agree. No music, no live music, and no radios outside.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
There should be either no amped music, period, if it's all acoustic, or no amped music, even inside after 9 o'clock.
I would prefer no amp music, period.
I mean, even our singers, even with the acoustic guitarists, usually have a small amp so that the crowd.
Yeah.
can
See, that's the
sign
thing.
and
You've
hear.
got.
Look at Rob's wall behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
see,
we're not going to get
yeah.
any. We're not going to get
I'm
any
not
traction
saying-
on that one.
Listen, I'm
But it
not
needs
saying
to-
I'm not saying that I want to allow guys to come in with, giant stadium-sized amplifiers. But
I wouldn't know what it would be.
the-
Would there be a decibel limit?
yeah, I mean there is, but in the end, the general PA systems, because most acoustic guys right now, they're going through limited PA systems. They're not that loud. In the end, they're like 100-watt PA systems, which do not go that loud. Most specifically, if all you're using is a single mic and a PA system. Excuse me, a single mic and an acoustic guitar. It's not. We're not looking at stadiums. All right, we're not looking at stadiums. I tell you, you'd be hard pressed to get any musicians in there that wouldn't use a small PA system. They're not that loud, and I can't see it. I can't see it being that bad. Like I said, we're not dealing with a 1,000-watt PA system. If you do want to, I have one for sale. No, I'm kidding. But I don't think we're not dealing with stadiums. We're dealing with small, a small interior area. So when it comes to amplified, I can understand the amplified, but I don't know how to condition. Honestly, I don't know how to condition it. That's my problem.
And this language probably doesn't help, but how about something to the effect that no inappropriately amplified music?
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Mr. Galvin, Attorney Galvin, does that?
You just want to say no amplified?
No inappropriately amplified music.
I like
the problem is
that-
that's really
because
a
you can't
judgment.
say it.
Well, let me just try to answer that. That's unenforceable by Tom, because it's going to be like, what's inappropriate for somebody might not be inappropriate for another. Why don't you just say, I think you probably have to allow some amplified music, because I'm sure there's a level that you could amplify music that it wouldn't cause any nuisance at the property line, but no amplified music should be audible at the property line.
Now, what's the noise that would get the police called down there to shut down the music? Because
So-
I know.
So
like
DEP
the
does.
banders had their music shut down when they were too loud outside.
So DEP actually has a noise standard, and you're not allowed to increase the noise level at the property line by more than 10 decibel levels. Okay, that's an actual DEP noise standard. So I would say that to be even more protective of the neighbors, say that amplified music cannot be audible at the rear property line. And that way,
Okay.
I like it.
And it's inside music anyway, so how much are we gonna get out?
Right.
Well, when they open the door going in and out of the patio, it gets out. And I think having music going between 10 and 11, for me, it's just the time of day. I mean, I would say, so for me, it would have been hours, but I'm fine with.
so maybe you
just
say
not
no
being audible.
amplified music audible outside at the rear property line after 10 o'clock at night or whatever.
And in the end, the only thing that would really cause any kind of issues is drums. I mean, realistically, it's a drum
Guitars.
set.
Guitars.
If the
No,
patio,
no.
if the patio was closed,
Nice classical.
if patio was closed at 9 o'clock, there'd be really no reason to open those rear doors, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And the beer garden's closing at 8 anyway.
I got the impression they're not trying to make bleed out your eardrums musical performances there anyway.
It's all like cafe
Right?
type music. Yeah, to me.
Well, that's my heavy metal out the door. That's great.
Can we go with Mr. Galvin's suggestion?
Yes.
Mr. Rubel, he's raising his hand.
Yeah, that's, the Board of Health usually takes care of the noise, and Mr. Galvin was correct about the 10. What you do is you do the ambient in the area, that ambient sound in that area, traffic or whatever, and then anything over 10 after the ambient sound, if you have something over 10, you complain to the Board of Health, and the Board of Health will go down there with their tester to see if it's over 10. So you could put something in the condition about nothing over 10 over the ambient sound.
Attorney Galvin?
Yeah, that's even simpler. I mean, there might be some noise, but it's not deemed offensive by state standard unless it's over 10 above ambient. So,
And I believe that over 10, Bob, is also for a limited time, like over 10 for a period of 2 minutes.
And this is all in the Board of Health regs?
it has a quickness of the sound and a longevity of the sound.
Right.
So that standard does have both. So why don't you just say the DEP standard?
Yeah.
And incorporate that, which is that makes the most sense, because that's nuisance level noise when it's above 10% or 10 decibels above ambient.
All right, so it shall comply with DEP and Rockland Board of Health.
Just say
Noise
shall
level.
comply with the DEP ambient noise standards.
Got that, Kim?
Yeah.
Yep.
The DEP standard is that is for the property line.
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't even mention it because.
Somebody said they wouldn't even mention something. Who was that? Mr. Tassinari.
Wasn't me.
Who are you talking to?
No,
That was not.
That was not you, so somebody was talking about it. I heard him. Okay. Next.
No consumption of alcohol in the exterior of the premises.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
That's excellent.
Condition of outside of the patio, please.
Yeah. Well, I was including the patio on the premises.
All right, so no alcohol consumption, and actually should be no alcohol consumption and no food consumption.
Correct. I was going to make them 2 conditions, but that's
All right. If we can put that in one, it would just save time.
Sure.
So no alcohol or food consumption outside of the building or beer garden. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's next? What else we got?
You put the food truck condition in.
Food truck parking shall comply with
fire department regulations.
Thank you. Do we have to say in regards to parking location?
Fire department regulations. They're gonna tell them to park it away from the building.
Someplace. Okay.
Just the location of the food truck shall be approved in writing by the fire department.
Nice. I like that. What else did we have?
No parking on VFW Drive under any circumstances.
Like that. We were also talking about general site lighting. That is all going to be picked up by the planning board, and that should be covered under one of the other previous
The
conditions.
site lighting shall be in compliance with the Rockland zoning bylaw.
Okay.
Do we have to make the applicant responsible to put up signage about not parking on BFW?
Yes.
And that signage shall comply to Mass DOT standard.
Can we add our
kitchen-
own lighting requirement that the exterior lighting be dark sky compliant?
I think that's a requirement by the planning board. I don't know, if we double up on it, I don't see that being a problem, but
Well, we don't know that they will, right?
but the planning board would? No, I believe the planning board will require that.
They always have.
Yeah, they always have. But the other thing is that based on the application, based on what's presented, they have not talked about adding any site lighting. So I don't know if the planning board will require them to add site lighting. I would think that they would. So we can condition it to say that any and all site lighting proposed shall comply with. Does that make sense?
Dark sky compliant and then not leave the site.
Okay. Attorney Galvin, that makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. The location of the dumpster shall comply with the town of Rockland zoning bylaw. I'm not going to tell them exactly where to put it, but
Why wouldn't you just say that the improvements shall be shown substantially located on the approved site plan? Or the approved plan submitted for the special permit?
then that assumes that we're going to see it again.
Attorney
right now
Galvin may not know we wanted it moved out of the
dumpster's getting moved.
Buffer. Yeah, it has to. It's in the buffer right now.
Okay, so the dumpster shall be relocated outside the buffer to the residential area.
There we go.
Yeah, should we specify where? I mean, we talked specifically within the two parking spaces next to the that outbuilding there, where they're labeled those 5 spaces. And the reason for that is because it's going to be enclosed and it's accessible for, trash pickup. So do we want to specifically mandate where, it being located in the spot that we discussed?
I'll be honest, I have no problem leaving it at shall comply with the Rockland zoning bylaw. Or outside of the zoning buffer or something like that. I only threw it out there just that location, I specifically only threw that out there because graphically it is outside of the buffer and it seems like a good location to work. I don't know if that's the case or not. I believe that it is, but I don't want them to get stuck with it.
Very good. Yeah, that's fine.
I'd like to leave it as my gut feeling says just, that the dumpster location shall be fenced and located outside of the zoning buffer, away from the residential property. Something along those lines. I mean, if that works for
I'm
everybody.
fine with that. That's good with me.
All right. So we got that. And again, I'm trying to leave the fence and the screening and all this stuff to the end.
Rob, could I ask Mr. Galvin a question?
Please do.
Could we limit the hours for the dumpster to be picked up? A lot of times they're being picked up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
I just say,
That's not gonna
bad
happen.
in the summer, in the winter, but
a
in the
dumpster
summer,
shall not be, you know, dumpster shall not be picked up prior to 7 o'clock in the morning or after 9 o'clock at night.
because I live next in the nursing home behind me here. And they pick it up every other day at 4:30 in the morning.
So
And they're
just say
banging that
no
Yeah, but you
dumpster.
should already be up and ready to go to work. Come on, man. You should already be up and ready
Just go to
to
bed at
roll.
that.
Yeah,
I'm
I would say, I would say dumpsters not before 7 or after 9 o'clock at night. And I would probably say, you know, you might even want to connect the loading issues, any trucks that would come in for supplies, not before 7 and not after 9. Keep it simple.
All right.
I don't know.
I ended up calculating all the parking spaces out. Again, comfortably, if we said the required number of spaces for the operation as presented, we can say 70 spaces. I think that gives them an extra 2 spaces. Because again, based on what we were looking at was 67 spaces. And I think I added in 1. I don't know why I added in 1, and then I rounded it up to an even number.
Yeah, 62 for customers, 5 for employees, 1 for food truck.
1 for the food truck, and then at least a couple for musicians in there. So the food truck was 68. Throw in 2 extra for musicians. That's a total of 70. If we want to list it out, does that make sense? We list it out and say that 62 patrons, 5 for employees, 1 for the food truck, and 2 spaces for musicians. Does that work? Everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, would you just call it 2 for musicians / contractors if they had people coming in to do some of the work? Like, I don't know if anyone would actually do the work.
It's either that or it's either that or you add 2 more spaces and call it 7 spaces for employees.
Yeah.
You know, employees could be contractors. So,
Yeah.
and it's up to the board, however they want to see it. And I see a total number of 70 spaces required for this based on what's presented. Everybody, Mr. Tanzi, you got a blank look on your face. So
No, I'm fine with that.
That makes sense. As long as it makes sense. I mean, I don't want to.
No,
Can you just state it again so I get it correctly?
70 spaces is fine. If there's not enough spaces for the balance of the build out for the site, such as
Who cares? There's nothing to do with it.
I mean, they'll just have to scale back the other operation to make the parking work. But the brewery, we decided, needs 70. So
right. So so everybody agrees to that? We can put that in the conditions.
Works for me.
Yes.
All right. So a total of 70 spaces. Again, we're going to say 62. That's 67. Yeah, it's 67. 68, 60. So 69. Yeah, 62 for patrons, 7 for employees, and 1 for the food truck. That should equal 7. That should equal 70. Kim, is that you got that?
Got it.
Okay, so we're there.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rubel.
yeah, what's that give for the occupancy load, Rob? Total
Based on the plan that they're giving us right now. Hold on. Let me get to the
124 seats.
Yeah, it was 120. It was 124 seats. They're telling us that they only want to deal with 100 people in the building, which is at right now. That's all that the COVID guidelines allow for indoor activities.
When I give them their occupancy permit, I got to give them an occupancy permit on how many occupancies. How many occupancies are you allowing on those 70 spaces?
124 seats. All right.
Yeah.
So that's 100, that's 124 patrons, I guess we're calling it. We're saying 7, oh, actually, hold on. Do the math again, because it's 2, it's 1 for every 2 employees. So if we're saying 10, 11, so that's 11, so that's actually 6 spaces that they would need for that. So that's 62 plus 6 plus 1, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, and that's 6. So that only comes up to 69, but still, I think 70 is required. So 62 for patrons, all right, which is 124 seats. We're saying 7 spaces for employees, which technically would be 14 employees based on the current zoning bylaw. But we're only talking about, I think it was a total of 5, 6, 7. Am I doing that right? Because we said 5, but I'm adding 2 in there for 6, 7, because Tim, you said at first it was 10 employees, correct?
Plan says 10 total employees by.
Total employees was 10, but we're going to add on the 2 for the musician, so that's 12. Cut that in half, that's 6. So it would only be 6 required. I did that math right, correct?
Yep.
You added 2 spaces for the
musicians.
And so,
Yeah,
which is
just for
essentially 4 musicians if you count them as employees. The 2 to 1.
Yeah, 2 to 1. I still think 7 spaces for employees is going to cut it. All right, I still think 7 spaces is going to cut it, and 1 space for the food truck. Mr. Rubel, does that answer your questions?
But what's the total occupancy?
124 patrons, 124 seats. That includes outdoor space.
Mr. Rubel, do you suspect that's incorrect?
No, so total occupancy is 124.
Yes.
That's all we got at this point, yes.
Right. So the building may be able to hold more, but we're only
Right.
going to give them 70 spaces.
Correct.
Right. At this point right now. If the applicant wants to change that, they would have to come back to the zoning board to get our approval to change that.
Okay. 124, 70 spaces.
124 patrons. A total requirement at this point per this special permit is a requirement of 70 total spaces.
Okay, gotcha.
Kim, do you understand that? I don't.
Got it all typed up. That's all that matters.
All right. So we got the number of spaces. The question I have is the beer garden. I've got a couple different things, the way that it's going to look. Is the beer garden going to be fenced with an actual fence? Mr. Reardon.
Sir, after the current proposal, they proposed to use natural vegetation to close it off because of their initial concern about egress from that location.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
The plan we looked at showed a fence with a gate.
So the initial plan did, sir, and the new updated site plan, it was switched to vegetation based upon recommendations that were made to the architect and our engineer because of egress. So our original plan was to have that fenced in, the ambiance and to control that location.
We looked at this tonight with Grady, and he showed us where the gate was in the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. If you look at that site plan, it's actually all vegetation they drew there. We originally wanted fencing there. I'm just trying to do what I'm being told is what is supposed to be done. I want to make sure we are compliant with the laws and regulations so that we're not in violation of egress, concerns with control and access, stuff like that.
I can bring up the site plan for you again if you need, if it's necessary.
I'm looking at it. I can see that. It's just, I also look at the architectural plan, and the architectural plan's the reverse.
Rob, like the public hearing is closed, so you shouldn't be, if you have a question, I guess it's okay, but there shouldn't be an ongoing dialogue.
No, I understand. All
I
right,
thought,
board
I
members.
thought, I thought what you were discussing was you were gonna have a 8-foot fence repaired in the back.
No, different area. I'm talking the beer garden.
Oh.
Because we got two, with the architectural plan and the civil plan kind of show two different things.
So Tom asked specifically about egress at the patio. And then we went to the plan and looked at the gate. And because Tom said, you have to be able to get out. If you have a door and it goes out to a patio, you have to be able to leave it.
Leave the patio.
So we reviewed that tonight and we're shown that it's being fenced. I think being fenced, I'm just going to say, being fenced and landscaped is important. I think it has to be contained, and that egress should be emergency egress only.
That's right, Tim. That egress has to have a panic bar on it. It's just the egress only. You can't have patrons coming in to that patio from the outside of the backyard.
All right, so there's a 6-foot vinyl fence around the 6-foot vinyl fence around the beer garden with emergency access per state building code.
Yep, emergency exit.
Okay, for emergency exit.
Yep.
How does that sound?
Yes, I mean that's what should be there, and that's what we're shown. So I think the conflict is just, we had this moment where we were being told it was just being landscaped, but that just runs counter to our conversation today.
Yeah, I personally think that a 6-foot vinyl fence going around the exterior of the beer garden, provided with an emergency exit provided, designed by according to state building code.
Yeah, and I do think there needs to be, as shown on the plan, there should be vegetation, planters out there that just absorbs the noise. It should be as planned and discussed.
On the inside or on the outside?
It should be on the inside. I think it should be, because it's more sound absorbing. So those planters we were shown on the patio were sound absorbing.
So a part of the condition is inclusive of plantings as shown on the architectural plan.
Yeah. I'm gonna look and see which one. Given what, so let's see. That's the architectural plan, A1.
Kim, you got that?
I do.
Okay.
The site plan showed vegetation outside.
Outside. Yeah.
So maybe that was supposed to represent not being a fence, except that it has a gate in it between a couple of those shrubs.
Yeah. Either way, I think we've covered that. Is there anything else before we start talking about the perimeter fence?
I think we talked to the applicant about smoking. There's no smoking on the patio. And I think in general, we should have that as a condition, that there's no smoking on the patio. Sorry, Rob. Between the no acoustics and no smoking, we're gonna lose you, but
I'm not a drinker, so that I don't know if, can we do that? Attorney Galvin, is that something that we can do?
Say again, the underlying thing?
No smoking. We didn't want smoking outside on the patio.
I think it's prohibited by state law.
Even smoking on the patio? That's why most players.
Unless you're a private club, I don't think you're allowed to do that.
No, most players, a lot of places that I know of are building patios specifically so you can do that.
I'll leave it up to whatever you decide. you know?
I think we discussed this with the applicant in earlier meetings. I thought that was one of the potential
Would there be no
nuisances for neighbors.
smoking? Is
No,
that,
I dig it.
That's gonna come under their food permit from the Board of Health.
What did say that again?
The Board of Health regulates tobacco in smoking areas.
They do?
Yes, they do.
All right. Well, I can say this, as a smoker, I would not be in favor of that condition. I'm
For me,
biased, I'm sorry.
For me, it's a nuisance for neighbors. It's one
No,
of
no,
those
I
from the
hear it.
patio.
I absolutely agree with you. I hear you.
But I believe we asked the question and that there is no smoking. The applicant has a no smoking policy. But I
Mr.
think
Reardon, is that correct? You have a no smoking policy inside the building as well as outside the building?
Sir, we did not have an outdoor no smoking policy. We had an indoor no smoking policy.
That's a given. I'll be honest with you. So in the end, would you be allowing it, if you had your druthers, you would be allowing smoking on the patio?
If it was up to me, yes, sir.
Okay. I'll be honest with you, Tim. I would not be in favor of that at all.
I know why.
I'm sorry. That's why a lot of these places do have outdoor patios nowadays, patios and decks.
I agree. They're not all abutting residential properties, though. For me, it's a nuisance for neighbors.
Yeah, but they're 100 and some feet away.
Yeah, that smoke's not gonna bother them.
No, it's, I'll be honest with you. And where would you rather them? 150 feet away from 150 to 200 feet away from any and all butters, or standing out in front of the building?
Rob, and why don't you just sit there? Why don't you guys just say as per Board of Health regulations?
Done. And then in the end, it takes it out of our hands.
Okay.
All right, so we can say smoking shall be permitted on site per Board of Health regulations.
Well, if permitted pursuant to Board of Health regulations.
Cam, you got that?
Yep.
Okay. I'm trying to get everything out of the way before we start talking perimeter fence. What else we got? Wrong plan.
Do you have to designate anything about snow moving?
Snow removal.
No removal, but leave that up to the planning board.
All right. Do we have to, should we put that as a specific condition, or can that just be under, I think it was condition number 2 that,
No, they got to get site plan approval from the planning board,
Okay. So that should be a separate condition?
Unless Tom, do you think that they need it?
No, site plan will get it.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, subject to snow, I guess snow removal snow removal snow stockpiling and removal shall be subject to site plan review.
Snow removal and snow storage and removal as per planning board site plan approval.
Done. Okay. Next.
That's pretty good conditions right there.
If that's it, if that's about it, then now we get to the.
Maybe just at the end, you just say, prior to occupancy, they have to give Mr. Rubel an as-built plan.
Okay. All right, so Kim's got that.
Rob,
Yes, sir.
real quick. Should we put a condition on there that if there's more than 3 or 4 complaints within a calendar year, that they have to come back to the board and address them?
We've done that before.
Complaints to whom and about what?
Anything. Noise complaints, trash complaints, the dumpster complaint,
Well, I think you just leave it alone. If there's a zoning issue, it's dealt with by Tom. If it's a health issue, it's dealt, by the Board of Health,
And And if Tom, and
what-
in the end, if Tom thinks that it's a zoning violation, he would send them to us anyway.
Yeah, Bob, if I get the same complaint for numerous times, I'm just gonna send them to the board.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right. If there's anything else, now we deal with the perimeter fence. What do we want to deal with? Do we want to do a 7-foot or do we want to do an 8-foot?
I'll go with a 7.
Comfortable with a 7?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Butters want an 8-foot.
See, that's why I bring it up.
But you already have a fence around the beer garden.
Yep.
Okay, so, I think a 7-foot natural wood fence is probably the most reasonable, a solid wooden fence
Mhm.
along the residential rear boundary line is probably adequate.
Mr. Chairman, may I chime in for a moment in regards to
Yes.
there's an existing pretty decent fence there, other than a couple of panels that needed to be repaired. If I could repair that fence to a satisfactory level to either the building department or somebody to look at it, to just take something away that's still fully purposeful and used, previously, I think would be more than suitable, considering there's going to be an interior fence around the beer garden.
Well, what the abutters are more worried about is light penetration from headlights. They're more worried about sound penetration coming from cars starting and stuff like that. So it's
You would be replacing the exact same thing that's there with something within 12 inches difference on the top. In all honesty, I think what's there does work. A foot higher is it's the same fence as a solid wood panel fence. There's no penetration through it now, other than the place that needs to be repaired. So
I understand, Mr. Tassinari, that you're trying to save money. I understand, but I'm dealing with the butters that are behind you that aren't really happy that this is going in. So
I don't think they're not happy. I just see their concern and I agree with it. It's just at the same time, you get to a certain point where there's something that still is suitable and useful, and just to take it down and get rid of it based on the fact because they want to, I'd like to just take that into consideration.
Yeah, I'm not clear that the extra height does much in terms of headlights, but I don't know the topography.
I don't know the
there.
condition of the I don't know the condition of the existing fence.
Once again, I would be willing to say if somebody wanted to say it was satisfactory and it did what it was supposed to do and reduce headlights or whatever they were looking to do, if they were somebody, whether it was the building department or planning or whoever wanted to come out and say, yes, you satisfied the purpose of the fence, I'd be willing to do that.
Mr. Rubel, you're the fence viewer, correct?
Pardon me?
Tom Rubel.
I think have the fence viewer look at it.
Yeah, I agree with you. So subject to the approval of the Rockland town, the town of Rockland's fence viewer. We
Say
need to,
that the fence shall be repaired to the satisfaction of the fence viewer or replaced.
I also need to come into, we also need to deal with the fact that it's been requested that a certain length of fence along the, the westerly boundary, from the northwesterly corner going southeasterly to the tune of 4 fence sections be included.
So, yeah, just say, well, just say that the existing fence shall be repaired to the satisfaction of the fence viewer and or replaced if necessary to
Okay.
include the 4 sections of fence on the westerly boundary line.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask you too? You didn't cover the gate. It's only a bar going.
Sir.
But you let Mr. Tassinari talk, so I thought I could talk too. Sorry about that. I'm done.
Okay. Said, next condition underneath that, the existing gate at the right of way shall be reviewed by the fence viewer. How do I word this? And
Why did you say that the right of way shall have a fence across it, which can be a gated fence?
all right. Kim, you got that?
Yep.
All right.
Or it could be a removable panel or.
Yeah, it could be that, but again, I think it should be subject, it should be subject to the fence view, to the town of Rockland's fence viewers, requirements and recommendations. Yes, no, anybody?
Yeah, oh, I'm fine. Yeah. No, I'm.
Okay. Anybody else? Got anything else we wanna put on this?
Not for me.
All right, Mr. Baker with Mr. Baker Senior, Mr. Haynes,
Nothing else for me.
Mr. Galley,
No, thank you. Nope.
Mr. Tanzi.
Did we specifically state being dark sky compliant?
Yeah, we said that. Kim,
Okay.
can you review it? Can you review that and just remember what condition that was?
Yep. Give me 1 second. 8.
8. Okay.
All right, so that's in there. Anything else, Mr. Tanzi?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Baker Senior? Okay, Attorney Galvin,
No, nothing else.
Mr. Rubel? Okay, Kim, you gonna be able to get those conditions so I can review everything and make sure it's all good?
Yep. I'll email them to you.
All right, everybody's heard all the conditions. Are we happy?
Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
So those are the conditions. We've already approved it with conditions. Those are the conditions. Mr. Galvin, are we good?
I think we're good to approve.
All right. So again, we already took the roll call motion on to approve with the conditions. So, do we need do I need to do a second approval of the conditions?
Just, yes, you vote to approve the conditions.
All right. I need a motion to approve the conditions.
So moved.
I got a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I got a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Done. All right, just a rehash.
Decision within 2 weeks.
Yeah,
File.
we got that. You just said, I went over it. I just want to give him a rehash. Mr. Reardon, this is directed to you. Again, you're going to receive the decision in the mail with a date stamp. 21 days from the date stamp, take the decision. Go to the town clerk's office, get the decision, request a certificate of no appeal. If nobody's appealed it, the town clerk will give you the cert, and bring a copy of the original decision to the registry of deeds, record it, bring proof of recording to Tom Rubel's office. Done.
Very good, sir.
All set. All right, so I'll have, yeah, that's it. I'll make sure I got all the conditions all written, all written up. I'll go over them one more time and we'll put them in the mail. All right, I think we're good, guys.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Are you sure? All right, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I got a second. Mr. Tanzi? Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
And Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I'm the fourth one. I want to stay here for another hour. No, I'm good. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I know it was a long one, and that's it. So we'll see you on the next round.
Rob.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night, folks.
Also, thank you, guys.
Rob.
Yes, sir.
Hey, do you know of anybody who needs a surveying job?
I got something else to talk to you about, so I'll call you when I get back.
All right.
I'll call you when I'm out.
Good
Yeah.
night.
All right, good night, all.
Good night.